Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
3-1. High in the air. Deep left field. They gave him something to hit, and he hits it out of the yard. Christopher Morel gives the Cubs the lead.
Now it's Forsling to Ekblad, the line, long drive, rebound, they scored! It's Markov picking up the rebound, and the Panthers take a 2-0 lead. Markov jams home the rebound, a short-handed goal.
Holmgren is layup blocked. Gets free on the deck. Dort has it straight away to Dove. Cranks a three at the shot clock buzzer on line. Chachaga Thunder money ball. Is he something? Is he something? Jalen Williams up and down again with a tray. Has 23. Thunder by 11. Wow.
Rebound. Gordon wants to go back up. Dribbles out of trouble. Murray three. Come on now. Come on. Nuggets up 2. 106 to 104.
The clock will hit triple zeros, and the Boston Celtics again have taken their talents to South Beach and are going to leave with another win.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube from the Pillar Exterior Stage. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. What's going on, man?
Just trying to make it. I like all of our goodies. We have lots scattered throughout.
We do.
Our Pillar Exterior studio and even in the main portion of the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty happy. We like that. It's good. Life is. It's kind of Nebraska-y that we're rallying. So make sure that you stop on out from 11 to 7 if you are so inclined to help out. We are taking donations. We have huge range. We have clothes baskets, we have noodles, we have food, we have drinks, we have cleaning supplies. You have a lot of smiling faces. Well, I think there's
some smiling faces at least.
Got a good crew. So
yeah, for sure.
It's pretty cool. Shane, before I put you on the Pillar Exteriors ginger ale hot seat.
Come on now.
Are we still out in cleaning up this morning before I call for Sasha or Cam or anybody that I know is actually going to be being productive doing something out in the community?
Our crew is back in the office this morning. Cam is out of town, I think.
Yeah.
Or he's out of the office.
He is.
But Sasha will be in this morning. I do believe the crew's going back out.
I know Sasha's spent.
Yeah,
I try not to send her very much lately.
They were out. I think they were out all day. They got out at 6:30. They were out there before we started, and then they were there after we left here today. So they were getting after it.
Did a lot of debris and garbage pickup yesterday. Our trash did not come, which is okay.
Mm-hmm.
I figure they're needed elsewhere.
Probably got some busy things to do in other places.
But I did come back and leave my trash out. Is that okay?
I think so.
Are you sure, or should I put it away till next week?
I don't know. Unless they've announced that they're not picking up at all this week, I would leave it out because
I'm not really good at that. I have a lot of nosy neighbors that would probably be better.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll call my mom. She'll know.
That's what I do when I don't know what's happening with.
I think I have to take her out this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was waiting until this week she has to make a little Costco run.
Okay.
And I don't have to get much. So might be. I got to get a little water.
We know you love your Costco runs.
A little paper towels and a little toilet paper. That's it.
That's a nice little Costco trip. It's not bad.
Are you Will Ferrell?
Come on now.
I tried to introduce Knucklehead to Old School.
Oh,
Sunday after breakfast. It was, for whatever the reason, it was on early Sunday.
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey, Micah, Caleb, this is what I was joking about with Coach Rule when he apparently blacked out during his when he unloaded at the scrimmage a couple of Saturdays ago." And he's like, "I don't even remember that." And I was like, "God, do you have a Will Ferrell moment?"
I pass out after every game.
And
I might go home.
James Carville goes, Will Ferrell goes, "No, it's okay, Jim. I got this one." They didn't quite see the humor.
That's disappointing.
It is,
yeah.
But it's okay.
It's different generations, because I'll be honest, I'll go back. I've got some friends that will live and die with Fletch, for instance.
Terrible movie.
That's what I didn't see it until
it's so overrated.
2010s.
And no disrespect to my guy Kevin Kugler and A lot of people that really strong, like, I mean, Jedi mind tricked me
into thinking it was going to be a
Have you
good
ever
movie.
seen Jessica Jones?
Well,
they did a Killgrave on me where they like made me think that I should watch that, and I didn't go back and get it for like that and the movie with the groundhog. I didn't
Groundhog
see,
Day.
No, the golf one.
Oh, Caddyshack.
Yes, I didn't
because
go,
there's also Groundhog's Day and it's also Bill Murray, so it's a little confusing.
I haven't listen. That's just not in my wheelhouse.
No, that type of humor just does not do it for me.
And so I was like, okay.
Somebody made me watch Kingpin a few years ago.
Never seen it.
It was terrible.
I've never seen it.
It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Bowling, right?
Yeah, to the point where usually I can at least understand why somebody likes something, but even if it's just not for me, I couldn't even fathom why someone would enjoy it.
Yeah, just doesn't ring
Not for me. Not a big Chevy Chase guy either. I don't think he's funny.
Yeah. So I allowed myself, I'm a big, I'm not gonna allow anybody to control my behavior. I have, full disclosure, let Severe talk me into not liking Chevy Chase, and I didn't even have a real strong opinion before. Just because he doesn't like him, I don't like him. I'm not even sure why.
I just don't think he's funny. I've also heard he's a really tough hang.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he apparently and Community.
Not like Wyatt's Princesses.
No, different kind of tough hang. Tough hangs come in all shapes and sizes, but mostly children,
apparently,
or people that act like children.
Hey, now.
I'd give you like adolescent.
It's weird, right? Some things, like 80% of my life is like lock, stock, order.
Sure,
like
yeah.
I need it to be a certain.
And then you come to work in the morning.
The other 20%, it's literally a total crapshoot.
Yeah.
I can't even find my charger, right? And I was like, dang, I think I left it at the stadium.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, Jess, can you check and see if, and she just gives me whatever the emoji is where somebody puts their hand in front of their face.
Yeah, the hand, the palming face
they
emoji.
Can't believe it.
Yeah.
No words, no nothing, just that. And I know exactly what that means. That is code for you're an idiot.
You seem very hurt right now.
It's code for yes, it's here, and I can't believe you left it here.
Like, after I just told the phone story.
Yeah.
And our producer, our engine, Russ is great. We have a fantastic team, right? Our boss is, he's like this young, good-looking dude, always he's constantly encouraging. Russ, our engineer, like burns it at both ends. He had just gotten done with baseball at like 10:30.
Yeah.
And turned right around, was in studio. And we have the funniest, no offense, Shane, I'm on the network side, producer. He's the guy that I talk to about like the speed of light and quantum physics. And
ooh, that's like right up my alley.
He's like a mind. He's, he can do the Rubik's Cube in like 65 seconds. He's that dude.
Yeah.
Hilarious. And, I said, I can't believe, like, I'm just going to go without my phone. And they couldn't believe it. And Cole, our producer, he goes, just deadpan, straight face. He goes, I said, Cole, what's the matter? I'm just thinking. Thinking about what, Cole? In my, 26 or 27 years of existence, I don't even know if my phone has been more than 50 feet away from me. I mean, even when I get out of the shower, my first thing is like,
check the phone.
Where's my phone? And I just was thinking to myself, if I could get rid of this thing, you know how much peace it would be?
You would chuck that thing into a river.
It would be so peaceful. Like on days when I wasn't gainfully employed, I don't even know if I was like checking school. Like I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I'd put that thing in my room.
I know. I was trying to text you.
I know, and I have this weird, uncanny ability to just withdraw. I mean, typical man, right? Withdraw.
Be alone with my feelings.
And I laugh my head off because I'm just like, I guess people are that connected. And I get it. Some people do their business, but his delivery, you got to meet him. Did you see him when you didn't come in that side, did you?
No, I don't think so.
He is hilarious.
I was pretty well trying not to go someplace I wasn't supposed to be because I don't like having my hand slapped when I'm like, like I'm new there.
Yeah.
And I'm trying,
get out.
Trying to like navigate where I'm supposed to be. And I thought about coming down to see you and I was like, I don't know where he is, and I don't know if I'm allowed to be in there. And so I was like, I'm just gonna go back to my seat. There's literally a seat with my name on it. I know I'm allowed to be there.
So were you in the front window?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you feel?
It was good. I wore my sunglasses for some of the game because it was pretty bright.
Did you want like a sweater and smart specs, or did you feel like you had to be buttoned up?
I felt like I had to be quiet.
Did our intercom guy, did he say quiet in the press box, please?
Yeah, he go quiet for the start of the third quarter.
Yeah. He doesn't have a cool voice.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And you feel like you're like, ooh, I'm in trouble.
But it was kind of funny because most people weren't that loud anyway.
Yeah.
So it kind of seemed more ceremonial than anything else, just like trying to keep a lid on everything.
And wasn't it weird too how people were like and kind of in a hurry to get back over to baseball too? It's like,
yeah. People were moving.
Yeah. So it's very buttoned up.
I also kind of didn't really understand the timing because they're like, you can, like the elevators are going to go down to the press conference starting at 4 minutes. It's like, but what if I want to watch the end of the game?
Yeah.
Can I not go? Or
so like people that have done it, always watch Sam. Sam gets a head start.
Yeah.
He does not mess around. Sam, I think, likes a particular area for the pressers, and he's going to get his seat.
Although I think I beat Sam there to the presser.
Yeah. Did you panic when everybody else did, or you're like,
no, I waited.
The clock is rapidly dissipating. I think I'm out.
I waited for till a minute left. And
did you have to ride the elevator with anybody you didn't like?
No.
Sometimes that happens.
But it did stop at a couple of the suite levels, and so it got crowded in a hurry, which I was.
Are you okay with that?
I did not love.
So I had to practice.
Yeah.
It's taken me probably 14, 15 years. And I'm a total sitting duck.
Yeah. It's
so
worse.
I've learned to kind of just laugh it off.
It's worse for you.
The ladies on the people sometimes.
Yeah.
She opens and she's on third. She's 3. She's like one of my favorites. I've seen her for years. And she's like, hey, it's Damon. And I was like,
we're like, people actually don't really say my whole name. That's not something we do here.
I'm like, hey,
what's going on?
And the elevator guy, he knows my personality. He goes, she loves doing that to you.
So that we stopped at, I think 4, and a bunch of people got on. I was like, okay, we're just gonna ride this thing now. And we stopped again at 3, I think.
We walked. I walked down with Coody.
And then it was okay. This thing was full after level 4, and then they're like, "You got room for 2 more?" And everybody in the elevator was like, "Not really," and they came on anyway.
Yeah, Coody and I took the stairs.
Cool, bud.
And occasionally I will.
Yeah.
I remember I took the stairs after Iowa, but that was more to cool down.
Yeah.
Like
a minute.
Oh. How you can just recapture feelings.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it's like
I didn't really get anxious until the extra people got on the elevator. I was like, this doesn't feel safe anymore.
Do you like the presser setup?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Pretty accessible.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't too hard to find considering I had no idea where I was going. They were just like, hey, you just got to walk around the building, and then you'll see the Hawk Center, and just go right in there. I was like, okay, thanks, guys.
Is that how you said it?
Yeah, I'm really courteous to people.
Kind of like when Steven gives you the well, actually.
Well, actually. No, I'm like super kind and courteous to people when they're like, when I don't know what's going on and I'm trying, like, I know they're helping me. I try and be as kind as possible because, I'm just out here and like, I know everybody else knows what they're doing. Like, that's the weird part about the situation is everybody else knows what they're doing because they've been there for years.
Yeah. Are you, Shane, will they get Nebraska? Will they get the baseball game in today?
I do know what I know, but.
Oh, Lord, he's on. Here he goes.
We got Nebraska Creighton.
That's at 6,
scheduled,
so that's cool
for a 6 o'clock tonight. But there is a chance.
Spot on.
There is a chance of more severe weather today, so keep your head on a swivel.
You think we'll be a little gun shy?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like it's a little. There's a little PTSD there. And I don't use that term lightly. Like it's going to be a thing for a little bit. Whenever we've got and the meteorologists have kind of been talking about this one for about a day. So I think there's some concern there, but just keep paying attention to your phone, not if you're DB, maybe a TV.
So isn't that, I'm embarrassed. So, but how about my buddy Kevin, though? He texts me right away because he knows my family pretty well. He's like, hey, chance of severe weather today, FYI. No, because he knows the last time, for whatever the reason, it did kind of sneak up on me.
My mom does the same thing. If it weren't for my mom, I would not have known anything was happening on Friday.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's already,
it's a little overcast, a little gray. Looks a little ominous already. So
there's a line from Raspberry Beret and Prince in there.
Raspberry
Overcast days. Nah, I won't say
You
that.
big Prince guy?
Yes. Yes. Come again. And like, yeah, top 5 of all time.
Okay,
and
all
my,
right.
And my faves.
We love some Prince. Speaking of somebody that plays the same position as a Prince will. I'm gonna.
Oh,
you see what I did there?
I did.
You're
so creative.
Our guy Chief Borders is the first transfer portal casualty of the spring. It didn't seem like you were maybe surprised by that.
No. Well, is that my nonverbal to elaborate?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that was a pause. And I know you tried that last week with Verzal and he snapped at you. So I'm like, wait, is this my opening?
No, he's the one that paused.
You asked me, bud. Now let me talk.
I didn't personally, but all right. No,
you still mad about that?
No, I'm okay now. Mostly. No, it didn't seem, we texted a little bit, I think, about it yesterday, and you didn't seem shocked by it. It's a pretty stacked position.
It is, and I think here's the cool thing about Coach Rule is they know. I mean, he's getting ready to graduate in May or in a couple weeks, and he has a lot of other interests outside of football.
Chief,
yeah,
yeah,
and so I think we got Princewell, and I mean that jack position
Jamari.
Oh yeah, who didn't he? It's funny. Jamari Butler didn't play in the scrimmage, and he was like the last one a lot of people brought up that didn't play.
Jamari's good though.
He's way good.
Yeah,
and
he's gonna play a lot.
Yeah, so I think that one, it's just they go 3 deep and easy.
Yeah, so you got Princewell, Jamari, and then MJ.
Yeah,
and so there's not a ton of room there.
I mean, and you're missing a really, really good player like Princewell in the spring.
Yeah,
and we didn't even talk about it.
Yeah,
and they didn't make a big deal about it either.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't. It's not like they went out of their way to tell his business or anything, but like we didn't really skip a beat. So that
no big deal.
That front 7 is going to be fine.
They're in good shape. I mean, we talked about the secondary last week and then a little bit again yesterday. That's where I think the questions are on defense, right?
Yeah, and the cool thing about the staff and Coach Rule is you say this all the time, and it's got me paranoid. But now I'm kind of like I'm trying to get there.
Yeah,
chess checkers. I think a lot of the Chief Borders talk and
was it to set him up for his next move?
Yeah,
because that's what I thought.
Yeah.
As soon as this came out, I was like, "Oh, he was trying to make sure people knew he was good,
yeah,
so that he could land somewhere."
And Coach Rule's the type of guy they'll make calls.
Yeah,
hey, where do you want to go?
Absolutely,
because he's a heck of a spokesperson.
Well, and
for Nebraska, he's everything that Nebraska's about.
Yeah, well, and Rule, the thing that I like about him is he's people first, right? So we knew there was going to be a numbers crunch at some point, right? There has to be.
He's going to get a couple of these,
right? There has to be a numbers crunch at some point. There's going to be guys that maybe we have name familiarity with, but let's be honest here, and this is not a knock on Chief Borders. He really didn't play significant time last year, right? Like that wasn't of that pretty good defense. He wasn't a huge part of that.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't play much, and then had a pretty good spring, but again with a bunch of guys out, I don't know that he was going to be a contributor this year.
Again, that insert name.
Yes.
If you see that in the next coming, I don't think this is going to be like Moses and Aaron and they're
mass exodus.
Yeah, I don't see that.
I don't either. Like there's going to be a certain number of people,
and there'll be some name familiarity.
I wonder about
because part of loving somebody is
letting them go.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, what did I say?
Because you really want the best for him, right?
What did I say the other day when Coach Rule when he's kind of going into, hey, I call other people's coaches once my guys transfer, and
isn't that something? And I thought it was a plant.
Yeah, and he goes, I call coaches when they transfer. I call guys, make sure they're okay. Once you play for me, you play for me forever. Once I'm your coach or whatever, however he phrased it, right? He's like, hey, once
play
you're
for me, player for life.
Yeah, you play for me, you play for me for life. And I go, is he telling guys that it's okay to leave? Like, is he telling guys?
So when you first asked me that live on the show, I thought you were nuts. Full disclosure, I'm like, does everything have to be 15 steps ahead? But you know what?
It seems like it is.
I know I've said this a couple times, and it hurt. Believe me, this pains me, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna move on. You may have actually been right. Right. Okay.
You feeling okay? I know that hurts you.
My vitamins got me a little queasy.
What's happening?
Yeah, I know.
But it really,
what is happening, Coach?
It really felt like it was. He was saying, "Hey, I'm gonna love you anyway. It's okay to leave if you're not gonna play."
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on.
Right?
Making that point.
That
was good.
You know, I think that's
finally got one right.
Hey, I was due.
Scoreboard. You know what our next one's gonna be?
What's that?
It's gonna be over JJ McCarthy.
Ooh, okay.
We're gonna have to sit on it for a while.
Yeah,
but that's good because you're kind of adamant. I mean, you hated the whole way.
No,
stop it. Can't go back and get it.
I hated. Look, okay, I thought 10 was a little high, but when they were starting to talk about him at 3, that's when I lost it.
Oh yeah, so
that's where I lost.
Very finite holding pattern you're gonna take, huh?
Absolutely. When has that ever not been the case?
I know, right? very, very good at that as well.
I got to define my parameters, otherwise I'd never be right.
Man, I'll tell you what, I know what Pillar Exteriors can do for us. They need to encase you, get you some siding because you insulate yourself nicely. I mean, goodness.
Listen,
right? Isn't that right, Coach Rule?
If you define the scope of the argument, the chances of winning go way up.
Yeah. What amazing Daniel say? It's just weird how when people argue, it's like you need a frame of reference to make sure that you're arguing about the same thing. Otherwise, it could just come across as futile. Okay, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel. Coming up on the show today, we've got Jessica Coody from Husker Radio Network. You know her a little bit.
I do. Will she have jokes? Shane, is she Zooming or are we calling?
I'm going to send her the link, so I'm hoping that she'll be in on the Zoom today.
Lord knows she's the master. I was on the radio network the other day, and she said between 7 and 7:03.
Yeah.
Okay. 7 o'clock, she says, are you in? Hey, that window, I'm going to take.
You're like, I got till 7:03. Relax.
Well, you gave me 3 minutes. Right?
It was probably the DB 2-minute warning.
Nah, see, I'm good. I'm telling you, with stuff like that,
you're on it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I don't mess around with.
All right.
With work.
Coming up at 9, we've got Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. I know he was up at the game on Saturday as well. I
know you better be in a better mood, or I'm hanging up on him. I'm tell you that right now.
Yeah.
So, Shane, when I give you the nod, I have to get his ass out of here.
If I was a Husker fan, I'd just be coming hoping that the ball's not on the ground.
I agree. And outside of 4 minutes,
only had one.
It's like a rash. It was probably 4 minutes, a 4-minute span where they saw the picks.
Yeah, and then you had Raiola drop a snap at one point.
Are you counting that?
No, the ball was on the ground.
Well, he didn't turn it over.
No, but the ball was on the ground still. We can't play the results game, right? You got to hang on the snap.
I don't know. At some point you will, though. When you start looking at W's and L's, it'll be about results.
Yeah, but not while you're going through the process.
My bad. I got to fall in love with the process.
Trust the process, right?
Yes.
We will be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
I want the quarterback play to be great, and so each guy from there then has to bring their own unique sensibility, right? Dylan kind of makes these types of plays. Heinrich can make these types of plays. I personally believe it's going to take all of us to play pretty well at the quarterback position in the Big Ten.
Checkers and chess, Ravi. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Careful. Nope, that's 9 o'clock. It's not 9 o'clock yet.
I wish we were full-time.
I know. I would love to be in Lincoln full-time, although you can catch the signal in Lincoln.
Oh, for sure.
Because I know you were listening the other day when you were down there.
Yeah, I was very distraught that I didn't get to hear the rest of the quarterback conversation with you and
about the player comps.
Team Graybeard.
In the NFL draft.
Do you think it would have been wrong for me to ask him for that hat?
Which hat did he have?
The little toque that he was wearing yesterday walking the dog.
Oh, maybe. You can always ask.
I like those.
Yeah.
I wish I was secure enough where I could wear the ones with the ball because those are the ones that I really like.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Just own it, man. Whatever you want to do.
I probably like them on other people, not so much on myself.
I think
but you just gotta wear it around the house and kind of see how you feel with it.
Because I've asked him for his sunglasses, and one time he had a watch that I asked him for, and then he had some readers.
Asking him for a watch.
I said, well, there's context. He made it seem as though he didn't really like it that much.
Okay.
And I did. And I said, I don't really wear watches, but I said, can I have that? Like, I just didn't want it to go to waste. I just wanted to practice wearing watches because I've never worn a watch unless I was going to get dressed up. So, and then the sunglasses he had were pretty cool too.
He can be a stylish guy a little bit.
So when Charles Barkley took the bracelet from the guy in the wet sauna, remember that on TNT last week? I laughed my head off, and I wanted to text him, but it was the NBA, so I didn't think that he saw it.
Yeah.
But then when I sent it to him, Clay Travis retweeted it, and he must have Clay Travis blocked. I mean,
wonder why.
Shocker that Severe has somebody blocked. But he goes, "Oh yeah, I saw that live. I thought of you." And I was like, "See, like he shamed me that other people don't do that." But it's not like I'm gonna say, "Hey man, I like those frames, Ravi. Can I have those?" Like,
yeah, these are
your everyday.
These are
but if
prescription.
if it's an accessory. By the way, I was in Family Fair the other day and I tried on readers.
How'd it go?
They must make those for little people.
Like it's like the frame size weren't big enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I like those. You think I could wear leopard print?
If you
To
want
me,
to.
that sounds soft.
If you want to.
Really? Really?
Just
I don't even think he would say that to me. Oh, yes, he would.
Just tell people it's from your Panthers days. Just be like, I'm just rocking.
To me, that sounds soft.
Yeah, I don't think they'd get it. I need to go someplace. I probably shouldn't get those in a grocery store.
No, you should get like real glasses probably.
Okay, Mom.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I do the same thing to my dad, to be fair. He gets the like $2 readers from Costco or whatever. I'm like, man.
Oh, Costco has them?
Oh, yeah. They have a whole optical center.
Wow.
Go over Costco, get some readers when you take your mom to Costco.
What part of the store is that in?
Which one are you going to? This one or the other one?
This is right by my house.
Oh, go by the where all the deodorant and all that kind of stuff is.
I don't even go over there.
Okay, well that's why you don't know where there's an optical center.
So by the vitamins?
Yeah, right over there.
Okay.
Just head over there to the pharmacy area. You'll be good to go.
The more you know. I walked the same 375.
That's because if you don't in Costco, it's gonna get away from you.
Yeah. 100%.
And it almost always gets away from me, if I'm being honest.
Kind of like the Lakers playoff run.
Yeah, kind of like the Lakers playoffs got away from them.
With the Heat, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, they dealt with the Heat all right. That's why they're vacationing, booking tea times.
Kind of like the Pelicans got away from them a little bit.
Come on now!
I was pretty disappointed in New Orleans.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma City's really good.
See, I didn't, but I may have to ride that.
I
wanted to open with OKC.
I mean, the inexperience is a real thing. I get that, but
offensively, they're a mess, aren't they? Like they can get you in flurries.
They're so good, and I wonder if they're just inexperience can go one of two ways, right? Either you clam up,
You're too dumb enough to know that you shouldn't be here.
yeah, or you just don't know. They're like, is this
their average roster age, Shane, is like 22.9.
It was almost the
years
exact same age as North Carolina's roster this year.
I know.
It's wild.
You thought that was funny.
I
I tried
thought it
to
was
tell you,
hilarious.
because Baycott is 61, he brings the mean age up. And I know Davis is like 44, so just those two guys
Not like
alone.
Davis was much that far behind him.
Hey, why are you bringing up? Stop hating.
I'm not hating. I was just saying this college roster is the same age as the number 1 seed in the West.
Yeah, okay.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, you're kind of crazy.
Well, a little bit. I mean, it's not like they don't have Gordon Hayward out there bringing up the age by about 100
Is
years.
he healthy?
I mean, he's played 4 minutes last night, which might be about as healthy as he gets.
It's so sad how his career was going to be so good. He just couldn't play more than 15 games in a row.
And every time it seemed like he was about ready to bounce back, something horrible happened. Kind of the same way we've seen with Zion a little bit, although I think Zion's are a little more self-inflicted and less circumstantial. When you move like that and carry too much weight, it's going to go badly.
I just can't believe he's going to be okay with that. It's going to be a health risk at some point.
Oh, for sure. It really, and I
don't think like.
I get super frustrated because when he does play, he's everything I thought he would be. Like I thought he was a really, really good prospect. And when he's played, he's been awesome.
Yeah, I think 99.9999% of the basketball
probably
he hot take. Robbie thought Zion Williams was a good prospect.
I don't know. I had people it's probably just anecdotal, but there was a lot of people that were like, I don't know if he's gonna be good in the NBA. He's whatever. I think he's gonna be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. When he plays, he's really good.
You can't move like that at that weight and expect it to go well. Like it's just probably not going to happen very often. But your Lakers, what's next? Where do they go from here?
Now that all the children are growing up. How do they spend their off season? Knowing nobody will give them a chance.
I mean, you keeping.
Where do the children
I don't. You lost me on this one.
No, it's a song.
I know, but I don't know. I don't know that song.
Yeah, Shane. Didn't we decide a couple weeks ago it was Alan Parsons Project?
Yeah, I can't even answer that. Like,
now you got me confused because you have that look on your face that makes me want to put both my thumbs right around the soft part of your face.
I missed
Is
the
it
first.
weird that I think like that?
I missed the first part. You're talking about the Husker song, right? Because that's the Alan Parsons song.
No, that's serious.
That's the Alan Parsons Project.
Well, I
yes.
understand, but he's not singing
Where
that song.
are the?
Oh, it's the same. It's from the same album.
Yeah. See.
Okay, same album is not the same song though, correct?
But I didn't hear the whole story because I was getting the phone call going. That's why I just wanted to
I
be.
felt a little tension.
Shane, don't get defensive here.
I'm
just saying
Coach Hurley, Danny
the
Hurley a
song
lot.
that he is singing is not the Tunnel Walk song.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
All right.
The only
Forgive
Alan
me,
Parsons Project
but,
song I know is the Tunnel Walk song.
I feel like we may have had a hot mic because our phone call is about just what I was talking about during the break. Let's welcome in Ramon.
Shane, did you turn the mics on?
Were the mics on? Because I feel like
Those aren't supposed to be on, Shane.
Shannon Sharp comes up. Speak of the devil. Ramon, good morning, man. How we doing?
Good morning. How you guys been?
I literally just said to Ravi, I want to respond to Antonio Brown's tweet, but I feel like that would be inappropriate. And Ravi looked at me and he goes, yeah, probably not. I just wanted to say, you got to go to Antonio Brown's Twitter account and see what he tweeted at Shannon Sharp. He is out of control.
I tend to not pay him any mind.
That's probably for the best.
I know, but I just can't believe, that guy's a functioning adult, man. He gives zero cares.
Functioning.
I
is
said
aggressive.
functioning. I didn't say high functioning. I didn't say low. I said functioning.
Functioning's aggressive.
Ramon, out of control, Antonio Brown.
So the reason I wanted to call about the interviews, because it made me think about what you guys do, the portion of what you do as far as interviewing people.
Mm-hmm.
And just what we do in general when we talk to people. And the whole scenario bothers me because I watched that whole 3-hour-long interview, right? It was actually with Amanda Fields. I found it.
You're talking about Shannon Sharp and
Amanda Fields.
Yep. Okay.
I didn't even know who she was before. My wife knew who she was. I found it really interesting, and a lot of mature topics were covered, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what bothered me is that after it was over, it was a pleasant interview, and they hugged at the end, and she invited him on her show at the end. And after it's over, now she's going in on him, saying he was terrible, and she felt unprotected, and she didn't feel heard. And I'm just like, man, it was a 3-hour-long interview.
And he took momentary pauses to collect his thoughts, so not to be to not present himself like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it reminds me of times when you think maybe you had a good interaction with someone, a positive one, and everything seemed fine. And then after the fact, you hear from someone else, oh, that person felt like you treated them bad.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, I didn't get that. That's interesting.
Ramon, we appreciate the call. We will catch up with you again soon. We'll wrap up hour number one of Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590.
Nope.
ESPN Omaha. ESPN Tri-Cities. Apparently DB's just having a dance party over here, songs I never heard of.
How have you never heard that
I've never heard that song. You know what I have heard of, though? Taco Fest. It is coming up on May
Is that
3rd.
what LeBron's doing on his Tuesdays now?
Yeah.
Because he ain't playing
He ain't
basketball.
playing basketball. So he could come to Taco Fest at Whispering Roots Food and Nutrition at 2624 Edward Babe Gomez Avenue. The event is Friday, May 3rd. You can get your tickets at whisperingroots.org/TacoFest. That's whisperingroots.org/TacoFest. There's a ton of information, lots of stuff going on. It's not just about eating tacos. It's a whole day. It's a whole thing. Got Cinco de Mayo coming up this weekend, Friday, May 3rd, whisperingroots.org/TacoFest.
I appreciate you sliding that in because I'm hungry. And I want to watch Canelo Alvarez and Munguia. So,
I mean,
good on you.
Has anyone ever been like, hey, let's get tacos? And you're like, nah.
Listen, no.
Right, that's what I mean. Like
Yeah,
in
right.
the history of the world, nobody's ever had that reaction.
Even Zoe.
Yeah.
Even that little girl.
You want to get tacos?
And by the way, they have walking tacos at her school.
Oh, was it like in little bags?
Yeah, she's in kindergarten. Like, I'm traumatized. I gave her French toast sticks yesterday, and she ate without her shirt on, so she wouldn't get syrup on her.
Who needs bibs?
First of all, she's too old for a bib.
Hey,
so my kid is eating at the table shirtless. Well, you don't judge.
If you're eating lobster, you're never too old for a bib.
Dude,
or crab legs,
Crab legs, extremely overrated.
Yeah, it's too much work to
Lobster,
get to the stuff.
I'm all in.
I love but yeah, you got the bib, so you don't get your, got the thing. You're not wearing a lobster bib?
I did one time when I ate in Vegas, and I ate with gloves on.
Oh, you ate with gloves on?
Well, I was eating out of a bag.
Yeah, I don't know about gloves. That kind of freaks me out a little bit. I don't get kind of uneasy.
You can't grip anything.
Yeah, you don't have like
Either
this,
you
don't have the sticky receivers gloves.
Exactly.
Don't have the the sticky receivers gloves. You don't have the
tack
cutters or whatever they're called.
Shane, can we play that quarterback clip again about sensibility? Because I actually think we may be onto something. Because you're about to get cracked. So how have you never heard that song?
I mean, came out like 7 years before I was born, so.
So of a lot of things that you're privy to.
Yeah, you're right. That's not a good.
Either you crack this thing, or
how would you know that the jewels were stolen from the Taj Mahal? That was hundreds of years before you were born.
Because I like to read.
Well,
also it was
not. Can't read about that else. You can't read about that. You can't read about that band.
Spit it out.
Serious?
He's still mad.
Come on, man. He's fuming.
Well, actually,
he can't even say Alan Parsons Project. Come on, Shane.
And it's not even his fault. It was Mike's fault because he tweeted the correct answer, which was it came out before Sirius. So I tweeted you because you're clueless, and then you chastised Shane like you had any idea to begin with.
Clueless, like Alicia Silverstone.
You don't just get to come in and chastise my little friend when you had never even heard the song, but because Mike clued me in. Yeah. You felt empowered to belittle, no pun intended, my friend. What? He's still, you see how he jerked his chair to go sit there?
Just go belittle, no pun intended.
I got your back, Shane. I'm just telling you.
He made like 4 short jokes of that. What do you mean he's got your back?
Hey, watch this one. Friends to the end. Heidi ho.
I don't know if I'm answering your question, Sam.
Friends are friends forever.
We better take a call before Shane cuts us off.
Let's get to Kim. Apparently, this isn't going to get any better. She also wants to talk about the Alan Parsons Project.
Oh Lord,
Kim, what's going on?
Seriously, I'm the one that told you that, Damon.
I remember now. Jeez.
Oh,
when I saw your name pop up, I was like, oh shoot, the Sicilian Stiletto tweeted me that. Because you're wait.
Yeah. Oh.
Are you an Alan Parsons Project person? I can't remember what else you said in that tweet.
No, I'm just a weird, odd lyric song, 70s, 80s music junkie. That's
I apologize, man. Listen, you know my bandwidth is pretty small.
Well, not disagreeing there.
lot going on. Still looking for my computer charger. And I'm trying to defend Shane. Shane is getting killed this morning, Kim.
I know. And you know what, though? The minute I told him I wanted to come at you, he's like, oh, I like this.
Oh, of course. But really, we should be getting on Ravi because Ravi had no idea.
Whoa, that's true.
And then once it came to him, then he belittled Shane for getting the wrong album. Like, how does that work?
Well, yeah, we'll go after Ravi because he wasn't born when the song came out.
Well, he fancies himself as a historian. He can read, I think.
Barely.
We don't need Ravi to get upset about anything else.
Well, he's still traumatized trying to balance being in the Creighton media press box versus Nebraska's media press box. He's like playing in both worlds now. And they're vastly different. So we're trying to.
No, you know what I'm traumatized by? It's not the press boxes. It's about the fact that people understand that I like Nebraska, which apparently Creighton fans didn't know before. And now when I say,
that.
Yeah, I thought everybody did.
I did too.
But apparently now when I say something critical about a 35% career shooter that gets signed on as a transfer, people are like, oh, don't you have a spring game to cover?
Oh, I like Pop Isaac.
Yeah.
Pass.
I had, I'm just going to have faith in Coach Mack on that.
That's what you have to do. He's earned, you just trust Mack. At least I did.
Well, I'm not going to not watch or anything. I'm just saying I got some questions. Is that fair?
No. Well, Ravi, you know what else is funny? And this is not, and, people don't ever seem to come after me. And if they do, I don't really care. Well, I almost cursed.
That's okay. We've heard plenty in the last 20 minutes.
Keep it buttoned up, Kim. Come on.
People always assume that if you're a Creighton basketball fan, that you're also a Husker football fan.
Well,
I'm really not a football fan anymore until, I can watch Ohio State again.
Well, so they got rid of both your guys. They got rid of your AD and the coach.
No.
So can you come back?
No. I think I can.
There you go.
Wait, is the AD gone?
Yeah,
is the AD gone, though? Is he still there?
Nope, Gene is out.
Okay, yeah, Harbaugh. So that's good. Cool.
All right.
So,
appreciate you.
We might actually win this year.
Oh,
we'll see you guys.
No. Wait.
Have a good year.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Kim.
Bye.
What just happened?
We're not cheering for Ohio State.
No, never. Not a million years.
Sorry.
She didn't like Gene, and she didn't like her.
I hope they're dumb enough to fire Ryan Day.
Wouldn't that be something?
I like
guy with like single-digit career losses.
Yeah,
but he can't beat Michigan.
I mean,
We're not playing with desperation.
Didn't that happen here?
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Damn near.
No.
How many losses did Solich have? 13.
No. Stop it. You first North Carolina, now Coach Solich. By the way, he looks spectacular for a guy that is not in. He is a fighter.
Yeah.
Good on Coach Solich.
Well, no, I mean I'm just saying you have fan bases that reach certain levels of expectations and then they do stupid stuff. Like I fully expect the same thing to happen to Kalen DeBoer down in Alabama.
I think you're thinking it happens to Kentucky as well.
Oh yeah,
basketball.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Fan bases get spoiled and then they get stupid. That's the logical progression, and then they get humbled, and then you end up where Nebraska football is, where they're just desperate to be relevant again.
You know where this might happen?
Where?
And I know this is a little bit out of your comfort zone. We may see it happen with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, well, Stamkos is probably gone, right?
I mean, that was
kind of an
a
emotional
run
last night as he's
Yeah.
letting everybody get off the ice before.
Shane, is your brother going to be okay?
Probably not, but they
He's
I
still,
mean, they
he's still
could
pointing at me.
they
Shane,
could
remember,
sign.
I'm not. I didn't do that. Ravi did.
They could sign Stammers. I mean, they got time. I mean, they got to get it done, and they got to make him happy.
That
It's-
franchise,
and
they can't.
It seemed like
And they're up against it money.
They are up against it, but I mean, but he's the guy that I mean, if Sid the Kid is the guy that's going to be in Pittsburgh his entire time, Stammers is the guy that needs to be in Tampa Bay the entire time.
Stammers, is that new?
I don't know. They were calling him that on the broadcast last night. But
Stammers.
I don't know.
I know. I just didn't know if that was new.
I wouldn't know.
No, it's been there for a minute.
I'm almost as new to hockey as I am to a Husker press box, so we're still trying to figure things out here.
I don't even recognize what we're doing.
Well, we were going to talk about quarterbacks. We don't have enough time anymore. We can do it after.
It's crazy how these segments just fly.
We've done an
the
hour
heck
of
by.
show already, and we haven't gotten to.
Talked a lot about quarterbacks.
We'll get to more quarterback stuff because I do want to get to
your
what you
thing,
were talking
man.
about
Shock
on
the
betting
world,
bites
baby.
yesterday. And
Getting the quarterback room right. But do you believe, Shane, with this quote, do you believe that this is a checkers chess thing? You taking him at his word, or you think this is gamesmanship?
Do you play, Shannon?
I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
The sensibility, the one that I asked you.
The
to
one that you
play
played on the way in.
15 seconds ago. Can you see through that little birdhouse over there, partner?
Yeah, I can get it here.
Look, he's still mad. It's okay.
I'm steaming Willie Beeman over here.
I get it.
I want the quarterback play to be great, and so each guy from there then has to bring their own unique sensibility, right? Dylan kind of makes these types of plays. Heinrich can make these types of plays. I personally believe it's going to take all of us to play pretty well at the quarterback position in the Big Ten.
Gamesmanship?
It's hard to tell at the quarterback spot, right? Because
I think he's right. I think he's being 100% honest.
I never think he's not being honest, but I do think he's very intentional about the way he frames things, right? So there's
as are most good orators,
right? But most people aren't. So I think sometimes when someone frames something in a specific way, we view it as dishonest. When really, I mean, you kind of do this to me sometimes when I try and reframe my arguments.
Always.
You think I'm moving the goalpost on you, and sometimes I am. But a lot of times I'm just trying to define what I actually want to talk about, right?
So, do you know why? Do you know why I do that to you? I do it to a lot of people that I think that are fairly smart. I want you to take more time to get it right the first time. That's what I really want. Isn't that childish? But that's really what it. Because words. This is a total my dad thing.
Yeah.
Like words are important, right?
They are.
So don't just hot handle that thing. Like, compose your thoughts and say what you mean to say.
We're doing 3 hours of live radio. It's got to
the
come
live
out.
thing, man. The heck with that. In fact, it's going out statewide, man. Don't worry about that. No pressure.
That's CB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. Coming up next, we'll talk to Jessica Coody from Husker Radio Network.
Lord.
Have a little conversation about spring game here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, on the Pillar Exterior stage. I'm Ravi Lulla, DB here with me.
She's here.
You know she's not going to be late as hard of a time as she gives me.
We are joined now by Jessica Coody of the Huskers Radio Network. Jessica, how are you this morning?
I'm really good. You know, my team got a sweep
here
last
we go.
night.
No, I really like the Thunder's team. I'm a big Chet guy, so I'm rooting for you. I appreciate their dominance in round 1.
I know, they're just so much fun. There's so many different weapons, and they're so young. And
would you knock it off?
Sam Presti, say what you will. I mean, there were times you're like, "What the heck are you doing?" But he's pretty much a genius.
Are you a little worried at all? Because I assume you've been a Thunder fan for a little while.
Yeah.
Do you have any remaining trauma from the last young core that you thought was going to be together for a while?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay,
let's not bring that back.
I'm just checking. Checking.
The queen of needling doesn't want to bring up any touchy topics.
No,
and that's
yes,
something.
It does, but I mean, the most of them are locked in. You know, like SGA is locked in. And half of them are on rookie contracts for a while, and then I think they still have 85 more draft picks left. Pretty high draft picks. So I think they're set for a while.
I think you're probably right. I got to ask before I let DB derail the conversation here.
I would never. Jessica knows.
Jessica, I gotta ask, because it seems like, as I like to listen to your guys' broadcast, whether I'm watching on TV or like Saturday, I'm in the press box, and it seems like you guys have been doing this forever. And I realize that I think this is just the second full year for both you and DB to be with Sharpie. And I'm trying to figure out, like, where did that chemistry come from? Because it seems like you guys are the inside NBA TNT crew where you've been doing this forever, but it's really been a quick kind of gelling. Is it just a testament to how well you guys get along, or like, what do you chalk that up to? Because it's incredible.
You should hear us in the commercial breaks.
You should hear us in the commercial breaks.
I keep telling, well, actually, we get along in the commercial breaks. I'm just saying it's like a continuation. I keep telling people we should like live stream sometimes what we're discussing in the commercial breaks. But, I think it just goes back to Greg and I understanding how to handle Damon, because it's a lot,
Wow.
I'm just kidding.
Just preaching to the fire over here.
I know.
A lot of haters.
I mean, first of all, you got to give it up to Greg. He's the seasoned pro. He's the vet. And, he helped me along kind of understand where I need to, what I need to bring and how I need to add, because I had never done radio sideline before, and it's so quick. And so just understanding what I need to bring, and then even the things that they can't see, how I can help them see that, or pass that along. And so I think it's more so we all like listen to each other, and then we can feed off of that, as opposed to just like, saying what we want to say and not adding to the conversation. I think we all are feeding off of the conversation, as opposed to just like, hey, I got this to say, I'm going to say it if it fits or not, type of thing. I think we kind of build off of what each other's saying, and kind of can move that way. But it all starts with Greg. I mean, he's the ringleader of the show, and we kind of follow his lead.
It kind of sounds like, not to get too deep and philosophical on you here, though, but it sounds sort of like a microcosm of the way Coach Rules put his staff together, where if you don't care who gets the credit, you can do some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. But if we are the NBA on TNT, is Damon Charles Barkley?
Oh, I don't know. It might be Shaq. I'm not sure.
Listen, I'm one of the few that can actually pronounce names correctly, so I can't be Barkley.
Greg is definitely Ernie. I know that. That's all I know.
You've done this. Listen, big markets, big college sports program in Oklahoma. Have you been around people that are held in such as high regard as Sharpie is, that has his humility? Because I actually think that's his key, right? We're talking about kind of how the elderly statesman and how he takes care of us. His humility is unbelievable in terms of how he just kind of approaches work and life.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, he does. And I know this, with everything going on now, and this is not really him. He doesn't like all the spotlight and the highlighting on him, but I'm glad that it is. I'm glad that people are able to kind of show how much they appreciate him and love on him during this time. But he doesn't make it about him. And that's what a true, play-by-play person, the one that's running the show, they're the ultimate point guard, and they're about making everybody else shine. And that's what Greg does. And so, but he's definitely that. And this, like I said, this everything that's being done right now, and all the people that are, they honored him at baseball the other day. And I know that that's not really usually his hit, like what he likes, because he's so behind the scenes and low key, and doesn't like to make it about him. But I am for one, I am glad that it is able to happen, and people are able to show how much they appreciate him.
Jessica, it's kind of, we'll get to football here in a second, but, it's kind of interesting in situations like that, where people who don't want the spotlight on them also sometimes realize that it's the other people that need to let, like at baseball,
you
right?
Don't
That's as much
you
for
don't
us.
want to rob them of their blessing, right?
Yeah, it's as much for us as it is for Greg, right? And I think he seems like, I don't know him like you guys do, obviously, but it seems like he understands that other people need to show him how much they care for their own sake.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And Will Bolt was adamant. I think he was one of the big ones that really wanted to do that. Will Bolt thinks the world of Greg Sharp. And so, you're talking about that's coming from the top down. That's not like some marketing thing. Hey, let's do that. You're talking about the people in the baseball program that really make a lot of the calls, that really wanted to make sure that they did that for him. And, I think it does it. I think it certainly has helped him too, see how many people are behind him fighting and just the impact that he's made. And so, yeah, I think, yes, we want to do this for Greg, but also the baseball program wanted to make sure and show, hey, this is what you mean to us type of thing as well.
You and I had this conversation on air. I felt like I was on the hot seat with the awards and the athletes of the year. And it was difficult, right? Like, even I was like, if I talk to you for a couple more minutes, you could probably talk me into, person X. Were you like pleasantly surprised? I know Ethan Piper kind of stole the show with his speech, but like, were you surprised or like, yeah, that's about right with such a difficult year to pick the awards for the Husker athletes?
No, I wasn't surprised because I was on the committee that helped voted for it.
Okay.
But no, I mean, so if you go back to the award that Ethan Piper won, and it is just all the things that he's done. And, when you stack him up against some of the other athletes, he's an offensive lineman. He's not going to have a million stats that you can compare to, but he was so instrumental in establishing what Coach Rule wanted to do here in year one. He earned a single digit, even though he couldn't wear it. He's an offensive lineman that earned a single digit. So he was a big part of the leadership group for Coach Rule. Started on the offensive line till he got hurt. But then if you look at all the things he's done in the community service, and then he had an incredible GPA, like almost perfect GPA. So, that award that he won and Billy Andrews won was, the overall kind of student athlete, the community service, the academics, and then also the athletic contributions. And so, he just looking what he has done, he started a pen pal program to write to kids who have parents that are in the military that are deployed in a way so that they can have something to look forward to. So they, he established it and he got people involved. And so where people are writing letters to those kids. And so some of those things that he's done, I mean, he is instrumental in helping to promote the road race. And I mean, his list of community service and the things that he's done in the community are just, it's really impressive. And so Ethan Piper, so deserving. I mean, all of them are, and a lot of them we had some debates on, but no, I'm not surprised. To me, I mean, you in the freshman of the year for a female, I thought that was the easiest one with Bergen Riley, just because you have a setter. It's like a quarterback and how important that is, and getting them to the national championship match. And then Antrell Taylor and Jalen Lloyd.
It's tough between he and Lloyd.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably would have leaned toward Lloyd just because he's a contributor in two different sports, and that's just, I mean, who does that type of thing? But you certainly can't take away what Antrell did and becoming an All-American and how he was able to finish the season. Athlete of the year was Eleanor Dale. I think that how do you kind of argue against Eleanor Dale, which any four of the women that were nominated there could have won. And then male athlete of the year, who was that? Oh, Till Steinforth. Yeah, I mean, I think he could be the best athlete on campus, what he's done. I mean, he just comes in and wins the long jump championship. So, it's a good problem to have when you're having these kinds of debates and conversations of who could win. But there's a lot of good choices to choose from this year, especially on the female side.
Jessica, I'm glad you brought up Jalen Lloyd because I think he's a guy that we're going to look at as we get into fall and the actual season as someone who is sort of an epitome of this Coach Rule program, right? He does things the way that Coach Rule likes, and he's also that sort of track athlete type guy that provides proof of concept for some of these other guys that Coach Rule goes out and gets. How impressed have you been just with the development of Jalen Lloyd from last year, where people are talking about, he's just a straight line speed guy, kind of a burner, to turning into sort of a full-fledged wide receiver?
Yeah, it's you can just tell how well he's liked too. I did a report on this too, just the way that the team, and this goes back to last fall too, when he starts contributing and how how pumped the sideline was for him to get involved. You could just really see how embraced he is by that football team. And so to me, that speaks volumes right there. But yeah, you can't coach speed. And we all thought, oh, what are we going to do without a Trey Palmer type of receiver? And Jalen Lloyd says, hello, I'm here. So it's that you can't not, I mean, how do you cover that? That's what Greg and I were talking last night. I mean, if Tony White in the spring game is not able to bring his full arsenal of attack to try to make things complicated on a quarterback, you're a lot of times asking a DB to match one-on-one with Jalen Lloyd. And I don't know how you do that because he's just so fast. But yeah, I think all the other things, and he talked about that too. I asked him about it, just how has he developed in the confidence? Because he wasn't in spring ball a year ago. He's one of the guys, this was his first spring. And so he comes in the summer and immediately starts showing what he could do. I know that they were impressed by him. I saw him make several big plays in fall camp last year. And so then you have some of the wide receivers go down. He gets his opportunity. He makes the most of it. And then he's able to really establish some confidence. He built off that, carried that into the spring, and then was balancing both track and football at the same time, but still was able to absolutely handle everything he needed to in the football side of things, and has continued to only grow his role even more. And you can tell those quarterbacks really like throwing the ball to him.
That's cool as you guys are talking about Lloyd. And I think of Coach McGuire and how far he's brought a lot of those young wide receivers. Getting Bonner back in that room and getting him ramped back up to speed. And you had the fantastic interview with Bullock before the spring game. And I'm a huge fan of kind of what he brings to the table. And it's funny that both their coaches are kind of a testament to what Coach Rule wants. ABCs, right? Always be coaching. And a lot of what they do, and you see it because you're super close. That's why we're always picking your brain during games, right? It's like those coaches, they're not always on camera and they're not, the ones that are grabbing all the headlines at pressers, but they're a direct reflection of what Coach Rule wants. Be controlled and teach under chaos and always be coaching.
Yeah, I think it's just been fascinating every time I chat with the wide receivers and even like the older guys like Jamal Banks, when I interviewed him right when he got here, and he just, all of them go right to with Garrett McGuire, how much he understands the game and knows the game, that it's just mind blowing, his knowledge and how much he can teach and understand. And how much they've learned from him. And then Rob Dvorak, you could just tell the guys just adore him. And he's not a big yell screamer guy. He's not that type, but he just, they are so good about getting the most out of their guys. Right. And I go back to what Dominic Raiola told me on the sideline about why he believes in Coach Rule. And he had mentioned something about, he's somebody that can get the most out of people, whether it's, the people that he's on his staff or the people that are playing for him. And I feel like, now Garrett and Rob and some of those other coaches they are the type of people that can get the most out of their student athletes that are in their room. And it's really impressive to watch, but and they're not all the cookie cutter same type of coach, right? But how they do it all fits and it all works together. And I mean, Garrett's on the offensive side of the ball and Rob's on the defensive side of the ball, but especially on that defense, how well that they are a well-oiled machine. It's just they all work together and gel, and you can give that up to Coach Rule. He's a genius that put it all together.
You and I, this because we talk about this kind of stuff like on the road, and I said this out loud yesterday on the show. I like Coach Satterfield quite a bit, and I know his personality is vastly different than some of the other coaches, but I like his resolve because he's one of those guys that's firmly anchored. He's a loyal guy, and he doesn't get distracted by criticisms or compliments or anything. You said this during the Minnesota game, and I'll never forget. You talked about the contrast in offensive staff dealing with offensive players and defensive staff dealing with defensive players. Have you kind of noticed a sense of calmness with the addition of Coach Thomas and Coach Satterfield? He's smiling a little bit more, and I get it, right? A 5-star and another good freshman quarterback can help, but he seems to. I'm starting to see some similarities in offensive and defense in terms of just the ability to go out and teach.
Yeah, I think so. And I think he really likes coaching the tight ends too. And I think that's a fun group for him to be around. And I think they've got some really good pieces in there that you had said this on the show the other day. It always helps when your coordinator is your position coach, because then they're like, hey, let's see how we can get them involved in the offense a little bit more. But I think they've got some weapons in the tight end room that he's going to be able to utilize some. But, that's a lot of pressure, I think, and a lot to ask of an offensive coordinator in your first year, to try to also develop quarterbacks and think about all the different switches he was making last year with all three having to play and trying to figure out, and then all the injuries to the wide receiver room, the offensive line. It just was so much that they had to work through. But I started to see that kind of towards the end of the season. I think the offensive staff and Coach Satterfield really got their groove, and he had moved up to the booth. And so I think it was just more
that's a good key move, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so I think it was just figuring out what works. And then now, yes, I think you've got two freshman quarterbacks, and even Heinrich Harburg, you could argue. I've been asked a lot, and I know a lot of people have taken note of this. I think he's really grown a lot just since the last time we saw him on the field in the fall to where he is now. And he made some great throws the other day. So I think just knowing the amount of work it takes to develop and grow those young quarterbacks, but then also, hey, let's figure out this offense. I think it was a good move to be able to bring someone in that handles the quarterbacks. They worked together before, and they understand the direction of Coach Rule and this offense. And so I think it was a great move. And I think Coach Satterfield feels good about, yes, the quarterbacks that he's got, but also the other talent that they've been able to bring in. And then you've got a veteran offensive line that we didn't even really see hardly any of the spring game.
I know, right?
So, you've just got some pieces now that if you're an offensive coordinator, you got to be really excited about.
Jessica, you're talking about Ethan Piper earlier. We're talking about tight ends. It makes me think of Thomas Fedoni and how Coach Rule talked about him in the presser, talking about Heinrich Harburg. And it almost seems like Coach Rule's been able to find a guy at almost every position group that is as good for the team by just being a culture guy as they are from any talent standpoint. Do we give enough credit to his ability to finding guys that are good at the culture part, not just good at the football part?
The Elliott Browns, the Chief Borders, like those guys, it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think some of those players were already here. Some of them they brought in, but you go back to where, and I know Chief just entered the transfer portal, but a lot of these guys, how they're not leaving, and they're bought in, they're sticking in. And I go back to the Isaac Gifford conversation. He had unfinished business, and Ty Robinson could have left, and he said, I believe what we're doing. I couldn't just leave what was established. So yeah, I think there's getting a number of those guys, and he told me that the other day he said that's why I believe we will win, because we have good leaders, that it can't just be about the coaches. It's got to be about the players. And I think they've definitely established some guys that are taking this thing on and taking account, taking responsibility and putting it on. Hey, I want to be just as part of this and helping establish that they're really convicted about making sure that this thing is continuing to move in the right direction and establishing the things that they need to be able to pass the baton on to somebody else. And so that it keeps leaving it better than you found it. And so, yes, I think he's really excited about the leadership group that he's had. And, I think it's the way that he motivates people and gets guys to buy in. And then, it's when those types of players are bought in, then it's easy to follow suit, certainly.
Yeah, you just said leaving it better than you found it. And I can't remember the sideline interview of the player that said that, right? Whether you're in the classroom or the weight room or at a restaurant or you're in the community, to leave it better. And I just remember listening to that, and I'm like, that individual accountability where you see the behavior modeled, it's amazing how that seems to have kind of permeated the team so fast, right? Like
it actually was
only has to be a way. Yeah, that was okay. That was Chief. Yeah. Okay.
And I'd asked him, about raising the standard. And he said, it's everything that you do. It's everything that you do when you talk about being the type of elite football team that they want to be. It's not just on the football field. It's everywhere that they go, everything that they do, they hold themselves to a higher standard. So yeah, I was, that quote hit me too. That's why I couldn't forget who said it.
Jessica, a couple minutes left here with you. Probably should talk about the quarterbacks here. You mentioned how impressed you were with the development of Heinrich Haarberg. What did you think of the ability of two true freshman quarterbacks to look like they can be functional navigating a high major offense?
I think it speaks to, again, the talent of those quarterbacks, right? I mean, and we've heard it from really the start since they stepped on campus, how they've handled themselves, both Danny and Dylan, and they've not acted like freshmen. And I talked to them in spring, and they were like, yeah, the first couple of days it was like, what the heck is going on? Everything's so fast. But I think they were able to catch up so quickly because both of them, I think, really live in the film room. They dive into things. They are so, they are like pros already, and they understand that, hey, it's not just me coming out to practice or being in the weight room. Like, there's the extra work that I've got to do to be able to be the kind of quarterback that I want to be. So if there are things, if they make mistakes in a certain practice, I think they go back and dive into the film and figure out, okay, what could I have done differently? And so, a lot of times with young players, they have to figure out how to do the film work. But I think for both those quarterbacks, they both understood it coming into it. And so they have been one that has not been shy to tackle that. And that's what Dominic was saying the other day, how much, he's eat up by it and he loves it. And Dylan, and he, he wants so much to be good at it and to for everything, that all the hard work to come to fruition. So everything he can do, he wants to do it. And so I think Danny's the same way. And I think that carries over, if you've got someone that wants to dive into those types of things, into the film and the other things outside of just being on the football field, it certainly helps you be more prepared and correct mistakes more quickly than what a typical true freshman would be able to.
Jessica Coody, Husker Radio Network. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, Jessica.
All right. Thanks for having me. I can't believe we didn't talk about the stadium saga. Next time.
Next time. We've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior Stage. We got some rain outside, which is a great time to remind you when you're driving, especially when the conditions aren't great. Hands on the wheel, eyes and focus straight ahead. The driver has one job to do, that is to drive. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Big NDOT guy.
Yeah, it got a little.
They help us with the network quite a bit.
It got a little torrential out there for a second.
Yeah, it's loud. Shane said the hourly is up.
Seems like it's calmed down a little bit for now. So drive safe out there. I know, especially when you're on the interstate getting high speeds, that rain gets dicey in a hurry. So be careful out there, folks.
I appreciate the network for sharing Jessica Coody, although being 590 does
that
help.
helps. That helps. We're we're ingratiated.
What is it? What is it that you guys talk about during the breaks?
Jessica, Greg, and I?
Yeah.
Could be anything. Sometimes it's like what's going on the sidelines, kind of a feel. I still think this, and she's another one of those people I don't like to say a whole lot of nice things about.
I wonder what that's like.
She's, you would know. Her one of her best skills is she is a very, very good listener.
You've told me that before. Yeah.
Right. Like she understands like what's going on in the broadcast, and her and Sharpie have a really good chemistry. Like you can tell they're closely connected. And so he can be setting me up or vice versa. And we can talk about something, and she won't even say, "Oh, hey, I'll go look into that."
Mm-hmm.
Like she's probably already on her
She's
way,
on it, figuring it out. Yeah.
And because she'll come back a lot and she'll say, she does it. I'm giving her a lot of credit here. She'll like set up some insight if I'm guessing. Like I'll say, man, like I don't really like the offensive rhythm. Like kind of what's the vibe, right? She'll say, hey, Rayola's got the old line over here. This is going on. The running backs are doing this. I kind of like the conversation I could hear with the court. So she can she's basically my eyes.
Yeah, she's your fact finder.
Right?
Yeah.
And she's like,
because you can only tell so much from where you're at and what's going on. You're sort of,
and sometimes you don't want, like, my job isn't I'm not trying to it's not a shot at Tony Romo, but I'm not trying to predict. I want to keep the listeners on ahead of what they should be hearing and listening for.
Yeah, what to expect.
Right? Especially now that we have so many people that have found ways to sync the broadcast with the television.
It's the way to go.
Thank you. She's just really good at that.
We kind of got into something there with her about kind of the guys in some of these rooms, right? Whether it be Ethan Piper, who was in the room last year, whether it's Thomas Fedoni, Harburg. And I got to tell you 100% from somebody who has done this at a much different level, finding the right guys culture fit way harder than finding talented guys.
100%. And
finding guys that can do both, almost impossible.
So I looked at the teams, right? Some of the captains for the spring league.
Mm-hmm.
And you got guys like Elliott Brown, Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, Ballard. And you're thinking, well, but guys that kind of involved, not really involved. And Ballard's a one-year guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what do all those guys have in common? They love what they're doing, and program first guys, and they're accountable. So you empower them in these positions, and it doesn't seem like much, but it's very it's a great representation of what we're talking about. Getting the right guys in the right seats is all what it's about. And they're very good at that.
Yeah.
Right.
That to me is like maybe one of his superpowers is finding those guys, because it totally changes the dynamic of your team.
Right.
Especially when they're good, right? You can have, like, it's one thing to have your walk-ons and your Nebraska high school guys that probably weren't getting offers anywhere else, that are there and they love the state and they love the program. That's one thing, and that's super valuable. But it's another thing when you've got a guy in Thomas Fedoni who was super highly touted recruit, who is, as Coach Rule said, every school in the country still wants him.
I told you why they're drawn to one another, right?
Yeah, because they're both a little edgy.
They're the same person.
Yeah, but when you
Coach Rule is just significantly more experienced and older.
Yeah, he's kind of navigated it.
Thomas says all the things that Coach Rule thinks.
So when you've got a guy like that who is both hyper talented and he's the culture guy you want, that is a whole other thing, right? It's the, hey, when your best player is your hardest worker, not saying that Fedoni is their best player, but when the best player is the hardest worker, then everybody else kind of has to fall in line.
Look at that relationship. I think another good one is Jamari Butler and Coach Rule. Exceptionally close, and it's for a lot of the same reasons. Remember, I said it in passing. Actually, Sharpie kind of saw it during the broadcast early, where you could just see Jamari Butler almost pleading to play, right?
Yeah.
Grabbing pads, taking them back, grabbing pads, taking them back. And, there's a reason. I watched their interaction, Coach Rule and Coach Butler, and Coach Butler, Jamari. And I just think that there's something when you can coach you can coach your high energy guys hard. Like they can get after Tommy Hill. And I say that all the time in high school because we have it backwards, right? We let guys that are good, we cut them breaks because there's not enough of them.
They're talented, right? You don't want to scare them off.
And I just, it's the opposite. It's the total opposite. When you can.
And listen, there's gonna be some kids that aren't about that.
Yeah, like when you can jump a guy like Calvin Strong or Anthony Rizak or whomever, Caleb,
CJ,
yeah, good one, especially this year. Like,
what can't you say to Christian Jones?
He knows.
Yeah,
Campbell is another one. Like they know. Like you're the barometer. And listen, if we're gonna go double up on a drill and you're running a drill, or we trust you to instruct a drill, you're going to be held to a certain standard. So with that, you got to be able to handle those kinds of things. I watched Gifford's evolution.
I was just going to say, the guy that remind me, as you're saying that The name that popped into my head was Gifford.
Yeah. And his story, it's an easy one to tell now.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's not, we're going to grab him because I just have, we're kind of, we get along okay. It's cool now to talk about because he's on the other end of it. But ask him about and talk to him about the early stages when the staff first got here. It's like, hey, I'm not the 4-5 guy. I'm not, although he is a great tester, so I shouldn't.
Yeah,
he may not be a great example,
but wasn't a super highly touted recruit.
Right,
wasn't that guy.
It was a holdover, a little older. Sometimes those guys are hard to get.
When he started, wasn't he the gray shirt?
Yeah,
coming in.
Yeah.
So like not even a full scholarship guy coming in.
And he's just kind of pissy by nature.
Yeah,
and
got the chip on his shoulder.
Oh, yeah, like
maybe a whole block.
This dude's like a rattlesnake, right? And just to watch their affinity grow for him, just stayed the course. Tried all these other guys to play. Yeah, you know what? Maybe Gift's the guy. Now, what are the pressers like this year? Oh man, one of the top players they're singing the country, right? Now, we'll see, right? It's a lot of pressure, but what I do see is him embrace that role. He doesn't shout. They call on this guy.
Oh, so that's not going to phase him. That's not going to phase Gift.
Coach Coop gave my heart swells a little bit telling these stories. And I think I can say this because this isn't anything. I'm not talking scheme. But Gift was talking about, he said, hey, I want to ask you something. I'm going to say this out loud. I know this is a little personal. What'd you tell me this morning? And, Gift kind of sat there. He's like, no, just say it. I mean, it's personal, but we're all family, right? Like Gift said, I only want to play with tough guys. Like I only want to play with tough guys. Right. No harm, no foul, nothing big there. And Coach Coop said, why does Ike get to say that? And to see young guys raise their hand and say, because he's a tough guy,
yeah,
was like, I was like raised up out of my seat. How cool is that though?
That they recognize it?
Because that's where the power is. So because in a day and age where peer-to-peer correction is so looked at sideways, don't say that to me, to have that embraced because a guy models it is the exact same reason why Coach Rule can say what he says to those guys, because they know he cares. He walks the walk. I thought that might have been the coolest thing that I'd seen all summer or spring.
We will come back and wrap up hour number 2 here next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube from the Pillar Exterior Stage. And we're brought to you by the Omaha Supernovas. Make sure you get out to supernovas.com to get tickets for the final home match of the season. That is a week from Thursday, May 9th, CHI Health Center, 7 p.m. against the Columbus Fury. Go to supernovas.com to get your tickets. You can check out the schedule. You can even get some merch. And I got to give a shout out to the Supernovas. They sent over, Brooke Nunaviller came over yesterday to help collect some stuff with us over here at the restaurant. Super cool of the Supernovas. They've really ingratiated themselves as part of the community, even though most of them aren't from here. Really appreciate Brooke for stopping by and the support that she's shown to the community. Show the support back to the Supernovas. Go over to supernovas.com. Get your tickets for that final home match on May 9th. DB.
Ravi.
What's up?
Oh, how's it going?
I've been thinking about this for a couple weeks now.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Hey, one more time, Coach.
I mean, nothing. We can talk about something else if you want. That's all right.
Oh, Mr. Pouty Pants. Here we go. At some point, you're going to figure out that doesn't play well.
No, I don't care.
Well, all right. Well, that's cool. It's always about consequences. Can you live with them?
Yeah.
You better learn to care.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Don't say
it. His laugh kills me.
Good. He cracks himself up, doesn't he?
He does. So you gotta live with the heat.
You know what we were just talking about off air about people whining and complaining on social media? Don't do that to him. He's just not having it.
Just not interested in it.
Nope.
What I am interested
Hey, before you walk through that coach's door, this better be good.
Well, at least people can find his door,
as
opposed to some other coaches that we've seen. I don't know who I'd be talking about there.
No idea.
It's good though. We actually heard from Dion recently after the Colorado spring game.
Yeah.
He made an announcement though. He won't be following his sons to the NFL. Thank God. I was concerned because the NFL was banging down his door. To go coach there.
Yeah.
You got to love that when people are turning down job offers that were not even remotely a possibility for them.
Like we've seen in social media, sometimes people just plant stuff just to get your mind to go there.
Hey, Shador and
will you be able to live with yourself if his son is like the first quarterback off the board?
I don't care at all. It doesn't bother me at all. Shador has nothing to do with. I don't love Shador either, just the way he acts, but. I don't really blame him because of the example he's been given for most of his life.
Worst kept secret that Dylan Edwards is at K-State?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
Jessica asked me about it the other night on Husker Sports Nightly, and it just seems like, because one of the questions to me on the show was, did I think that there was going to be interest? And I'm just thinking, it just seems like it was a K-State thing because that's where he had the affinity for right before the Colorado deal. I know Nebraska was in it late, but it just seemed like a K-State thing. And they're actually getting a good one. And I'm telling you, that staff is going to know how to use him. If Edwards is committed to playing, they will definitely know how to use him. Like, K-State's going to be all right.
He definitely is a guy that would have been interesting in Nebraska's offense. I mean, I was interested in him,
especially in space.
Yeah, right.
And he runs with enough power,
especially if you're able to complete some of those. What we talked about yesterday: swing passes, screen passes regularly, where you can get him out into space easily.
The guy that said traumatized.
Yeah, I was, man.
I was just traumatized.
Every time he threw one out there, I just have flashbacks of, oh no. Oh, dear God, please be a forward pass, not behind the line of scrimmage, Steven, because we understand you can have a forward pass behind the line of scrimmage. But
if I was a Husker fan, I'd just be coming hoping that the ball's not on the ground.
That's what I was hoping. Every time I see a swing pass, just please don't be on the ground. Please don't be on the ground.
Yeah, right.
Just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, the portal is going to be interesting by the time it closes. But how about the news of the behind-the-scene talks for kind of the standardized instruction of revenue sharing between the conferences?
Yeah,
that's a biggie.
That is
that's
a biggie.
That's a biggie.
If you didn't hear, the major conferences, so I'm guessing that means the Big Ten and SEC mostly, and then they let little brothers sit in the room.
I think you're sleeping on the Big 12, though.
I'm not saying they weren't in the room. I'm saying they probably don't have a lot of leverage here. Like ACC and Big 12 were probably present. I think the lawyers.
Remember, the Big 12 and ACC still have hoops. Now, I know the ACC is going to disband here shortly. At least I think so.
As soon as Clemson and FSU get settled in their lawsuits.
You see those grant of rights, it's slowly unfolding.
Yep. I mean, you knew that. I know that they said these things were rock solid legally. I was like, there's no way those two schools are going to allow themselves to fall that far behind for the next decade. It's not going to happen.
Especially in a world where now you're seeing streaming services bid on sports platforms
at insane numbers.
Yeah, better stay ahead. You always want to be on the right side of history.
Yeah, and early better than late on stuff like that. That's what happened in the Pac-12, right? You don't want to go the way of the Pac-12. If you're not early on that, you're dead.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
It really is. There's an unprecedented amount of money in the streaming rights because everybody's trying to end up on top in the streaming wars, right? Everybody's trying to differentiate themselves. And Amazon does the thing where they don't even care if they make money on the product because they make money everywhere else, right? If you sign up for Amazon Prime so that you can watch a Thursday night football game or a playoff game or college football, the chances of you ordering everything through Prime just went through the roof, right? Instead of going to Walmart, instead of going to Target, instead of going to wherever, if you've got your Amazon Prime membership already because you have to pay for it to watch the teams you want, they don't care if they make money on the games. That's just to get you in the door. That is their rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
Like sports is Amazon Prime's Costco rotisserie chicken. It's their $1.50 hot dog. They're just getting you in the door. So you spend $300 and walk out with a $5 chicken and think you got a great deal. That's all it is.
Right. By the way.
Yeah.
Costco reference.
Yeah.
Shout out Costco. Hope me and my mom hit them this week. They brought back chicken salad. They now are back to make. Careful with that frowny face. What's going on?
Is that the
I don't want to. Come on, man. I try this whole nonviolent Martin Luther King thing. Like, what are we doing with the hate look?
I have a hard time with chicken salad. I'm not a big fan.
It is spectacular. It
grosses me out pretty hard.
Dude, my brother made it is unbelievable.
There's just so much mayo.
Oh man, I'm telling you,
I'm not.
I'm freaking bats.
Stop it. Grow up, all right?
I can't.
I don't want to see that.
I can't.
You better stop with that reaction, young man. I feel like your mom. You go into your room, eat your peas. No, but
I hate peas too. Not a fan.
But the whole standardized if you just think about that for a second, because you've got to be on the verge of unionizing in CBAs if you go to structured revenue splitting.
Yeah, you have to.
Right?
You have to.
There's no other
because you have to then collectively bargain in the future for the revenue split.
So what would be the way around that? Is there one?
I mean, there is no way around it. Once this train leaves the station, there is no way around it.
So it's interesting, and I think, and obviously this was spurred on by Dartmouth, and there's some, UAB was kind of
they're trying to unionize at UAB as well for football. The men's basketball at Dartmouth already was recognized as a labor union. Northwestern tried this about a decade ago with
Hey Shane, remember that
Coulter?
That genius we talked to from the university and their business?
Oh yeah,
in our former life, who was so informative, who kind of foreshadowed it's a matter of time. It may be too complicated now, but he was very, very smart because he said without player compensation across the board, it couldn't be a thing, right? Like Kane Coulter was too specific. The general premise was good, but there weren't enough people involved. Yeah. Like it wasn't the totality of the sports.
It can't
market.
just be a Northwestern thing.
So, but now with athletes being able to receive compensation,
yeah.
Now everybody's in play.
Here's the thing that I think comes next, right? NIL foreshadowed this because it created a world that was more chaotic for coaches and for universities. And so they're trying to rein in the chaos now, which is, I think, long-term positive as long as you don't take away the NIL benefits.
I still think in their defense, and I'll just say this and let you go, but I do think they were waiting for government to step in.
Legal precedent.
And it just didn't.
Yeah.
It was just too slow motion. And while they're waiting, it gets to be a little more wild, a little more wild.
Yeah, it becomes a Wild West out there, which is why now they're like, okay, we have to put a structure to this. But that being said, with the numbers we're talking about here, a separation, a actual separation is inevitable in terms of these are the teams that are willing to pay the $20 million salary cap number, which is being thrown out right now. And these are the teams that are not.
Wow, didn't it?
It is. I mean, I'm telling you, this is inevitable now. The group of 5 and the power 2 or power 4.
Who are you, Thanos?
Yes, I am inevitable.
When's the last time you used that word? Just
inevitable?
So out of the Rolodex.
A lot. I don't know. It's a good word.
It's an absolute though.
It is though. I mean,
love the long shots.
There might be group of 5 teams that put themselves in position for this, but unless you do a relegation model or something like that where there's some fluidity,
I'm with you.
There is going to be a hard cutoff.
So you don't think we'll be subsidizing?
I would not believe so.
You wouldn't
unless because the power conferences have no value in including extra teams that are just taking a piece of the pie that they're not adding to, right? If you're not contributing to the cooking process, why do you get a piece of the pie? And the group of 5, for the large part, not contributing to that process. Now, I think they're still going to try and keep things together for basketball, but from a football standpoint,
how long this isn't just an overnight thing, obviously. And then all of a sudden, the news pops from Thamel last night. And it's like,
no, it's got to be cooking for a minute.
A minute.
Coming up next, we've got Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio, covering Nebraska football and recruiting for 24/7 sports. Here is Mike J. Schaefer.
Yeah, that's a grown-ass man right there.
Mike Schaefer.
I don't know. There could be bacon involved.
Mike Schaefer.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank Brian Edwards for me.
Here is Mike Schaefer.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube from the Pillar Exterior Stage here at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where you can continue bringing donations from 11 to 7 today. Hopefully the rain lets up at some point before then,
Can't believe it.
because it is coming down. But I will be here at least for the first couple hours. We'll have Hurrdat staff here all day to accept your donations for tornado relief victims. We've got hygienic goods, non-perishable food, clothes, all that kind of stuff is welcome and appreciated. Or if you just want to make a $10 donation, text Red Cross to 90999. That's Red Cross to 90999 to make a $10 donation towards tornado relief. Joining us now on the Hurrdat hotline is Mike J. Schaefer of Husker 24/7. Schaefer, how are you this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. Couple days post spring football. Got some visit reaction. Things are good over here in Lincoln.
How's the post spring game euphoria treating you a little bit? You coming down from the high at all, or are you doing all right?
You know, you're always happy to be on there. I'm always happy to be on the other side of the spring. I will say this: BC wrote this, so I'll basically just steal his opinion on it. I'm bored by the spring game a lot. Obviously, I'm a curmudgeon, so I don't like to go into the hype or the excitement of a lot of stuff. But I found Saturday relatively enjoyable. I imagine a lot of it had to do with just how simple they made things look. I mean, how difficult the offense was last year and how simple everything kind of looked on Saturday. I enjoyed some of the concepts and some of the route stuff that they were doing that it didn't look like they did a year ago. And so I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about Nebraska. And I was feeling pretty good about this season, you know, even a couple of weeks ago when I sat down and thought about it, and Saturday did nothing to dissuade me of that. So, I'm always excited to be done with spring football, but that was a nice way to go out on Saturday with the red-white game.
Yeah, it's rare for you because you're not typically a guy that would set up Kool-Aid stands and lemonade and all that type of stuff. But the takeaways this time seem to be different for a lot of people. Like in lay terms, what makes this spring a little bit more transferable to what we think we could get in fall, considering spring hasn't led to any more wins in fall previously?
I think for me, and this is just for me, and I kind of laid this out a couple weeks ago when I went hard on my Nebraska will be at least 8-4, if not better, prediction that was unnecessary in the middle of April, but I still wanted to attach my name to it. I think it's a foundation of how the team is built. Like, they're built through the trenches. I feel good about what they have up front on both sides of the ball. I feel good about the way it sort of. I think they have a roster. I think they have a team that has been built towards moving in the same direction going forward for one entire season and two now off seasons. And I don't know that was necessarily true in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, where you had a lot of push-pull. You were trying to do different things. You're trying to, instantly hit the home run with putting in different players in different situations. And whereas this feels like more of a methodical approach, piece by piece has kind of been layered, put together. They've been blessed with some of the talent. Super senior veterans for the roster. And I think overall.
Oh, we lose him.
Come on, Shane.
Should be able to. Oh, is my feed cutting out?
Yeah, buffered just for a second. The last 30 seconds of that, Mike.
Yeah, I was just saying I feel good about the foundation of the roster. So then Saturday to see the quarterback play look good, not just Dylan. I mean, I thought all the guys looked good. And then really, even beyond just the quarterback play, which was its own, level of impressive, they just have so many pass catchers. Like, I just feel like they can throw waves of receivers at you. And these are guys that can go out and make plays. Like, Ja'Cory Barney kind of stole the show. Jalen Lloyd had his big moment. Isaiah Nair, the play kind of came back, but I mean, that looked explosive. That looked like a guy I want to see more from. I was already excited about Jamal Banks. A guy like Malachi Coleman didn't even get to play on Saturday. He wasn't dressed out. And so it feels like there's a lot of pass catching talent there. And I think combined with an offensive scheme that can highlight some of that, and a quarterback in Dylan Raiola that has the ability to manipulate defenders and hit tight windows and shows incredible touch for 18, 19 years old on some of those passes. I just think there's so much reason to buy into what this team is. Whereas in recent years, I've been a little bit more skeptical. This year, I'm all in. I'm selling Kool-Aid by the barrel full down here in South Lincoln.
It's interesting because I think in different ways, but similar fashion, we use the young guys at the wide receiving core to validate Coach McGuire and this staff's philosophy in terms of teaching. How about the other way, using an old guy like Bonner, who they get back in the room, changed his body, and all of a sudden he looks like a more than functional wide receiver again, almost just like that. When there have been many that have tried. I mean, Chris Hickman comes to mind lately. There have been many that have tried that, the weight fluctuation, the position thing, and
it's harder than it seems.
It's hard to do.
Yeah,
and he trots back out there in the spring and looks like, I've been a wide receiver since I've been here.
Do you think in some ways that speaks to how this staff views a lot of these players differently than maybe we're accustomed to, because they're willing to try different positions. They're willing to see a guy fail somewhere, bring him home to something else, and then let him try again. And, I think what was Rule's comment right after the game, he thinks that Janiron Bonner is an NFL fullback, but if they can find ways to use him as a college wide receiver and have success with it, they're absolutely going to do that. I just think they're not willing to write someone off entirely until they check every single way that this person can help them, because anyone that can help them, they want on the roster. I think it's that simple. They want to maximize their talent to a level that maybe we're not accustomed to, or previous staffs didn't seem as interested in.
Well, Schaefer, I think that naturally brings us to another guy who's been in that wide receiver room in Jaden Doss, who we saw go both ways on Saturday, and is a a guy that was ahead of the group seemingly at wide receivers last year as a true freshman. Seems like they're sort of trying to find the right spot for him now, whether that's on the offensive or defensive side of the ball. What did you make of just I mean, to me, that was a surprise that he was playing defense at all. What did you make of that kind of revelation on Saturday that Jaden Doss may be on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to the same thing. They just want to see what they can find in a player. They clearly like the athleticism. They trust his hips. They think that he can track the ball and play as a defensive back. Then they're giving him that opportunity. They're just trying to find value in this roster any way that they can. And this was already being done before the Bly Hill injury, and now you kind of look at that cornerback spot opposite of Tommy Hill, and it's a really big open competition. And so I think any data that they can get on a guy like Jaden Doss, Tony White's had a history of taking wide receiver recruits and turning them into, all conference type defensive backs. He did it at San Diego State. I think he's done it at Arizona State. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there was something he saw specifically in Jaden Doss, and of course, along with Evan Cooper, who's going to be coaching him. But there's got to be a reason that they saw something and they feel like he can help the roster to be willing to do that. And that's even at a wide receiver position, which as deep as it is, you could still use a Jaden Doss there. I mean, he might just be that valuable of a player that you're really going to try to see what he can do either way before you lock him into a position.
They're going to play 3 at a time, and they just happen to be 3 of their better defensive backs in terms of safeties with Hartzog. If he stays there, obviously Singleton and Gifford. Buford gives you some flexibility. We talk a lot about the corners. Are you concerned about the safety depth at all, even though they do have big numbers? Seemingly big numbers.
I guess the concern would be like if a Deshaun Singleton doesn't come all the way back from his injury right away. I know that we've talked about this on this show and just in general. Like Omar Brown was such a big part of everything they did last year.
Grossly underappreciated.
You can't just hope to replace him with one player and everything will be just fine. I think they're going to have to try different rotations, different things. But yeah, I think the concern I guess I would have is that there was a lot of excitement about Deshaun Singleton pre-injury. Hopefully, if he's able to come back and be at that level of player, but I don't know that you could just bank on that being immediate. So you're probably going to have some guys that are deeper in the room step up. I'm not sure who that is or what exactly that looks like, but they have been amassing a lot of players back there in that safety spot, or you got young guys that are going to be coming in June that have an opportunity to potentially put their first foot forward and see if they can get to some early playing time.
Schaefer, when you look at that safety spot and the guys that we don't anticipate to be starters, is there anyone in that group that you look at and say, hey, that maybe is somebody who would make sense or I think has the potential to be at the very least a functional backup to provide some depth at that spot?
Naturally, I'm just drawing a giant blank here. I mean, the hard part I have is that sometimes, and especially in the spring, I'm not sure if a guy's been moved up to linebacker, if he's playing in that kind of rover spot.
You talking about guys like Gradney?
Yeah, a little bit like Gradney. I was also thinking, and forgive me here,
I think he's a linebacker now.
What is Gage Stenger for them now? Is he up to linebacker?
He's a linebacker.
Yeah, so he was kind of bouncing between earlier.
It's amazing.
That was someone that came to mind.
He makes a lot of plays for a guy that doesn't get a lot of run, right?
I feel like they like him over there. I just don't know where exactly he fits in on their defense, and I didn't know if he was kind of bouncing between those two spots. But that's a guy that has kind of that Isaac Gifford level athleticism, where if he were to just pop, and it seems like it'd be more at linebacker. But he's someone that I'm always curious in what's happening with Gage Stenger.
We're talking with Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. Schaefer, we saw a little bit from Dante Dowdell on Saturday. I know that people were excited to see him spring the long run, but we didn't see a ton from the running backs in general, although most of what we did see, I thought, was catching passes out of the backfield. Is that, do you think, just the way Coach Rule was setting that up because he wanted to see the quarterback get after it a little bit, or maybe a lack of a depth issue with the running backs with some guys out in the spring? How did you interpret what we saw from the running backs?
And this might be where my trademark cynicism comes in. I did feel like a lot of Saturday was set up to be more through the air, more kind of highlighting your quarterbacks. I don't think they played a lot of their top defensive linemen, so I don't know that they were going to gain a lot by just going after and trying to hammer the run game that way. I did think they blocked and set up some of those inside runs early in the game with Emmett Johnson nicely. I think that can be a pretty good weapon if they are able to move the ball, through the air, and then you hit with some of those quick hitters, like that with Emmett, and, Ramir comes to mind. That was something that I thought he was really good at a few years ago when he was starting. So I'm not too worried about what they necessarily ran on Saturday with the running game, because I just don't feel like the situation set up for a normal running attack. But I am going to be endlessly fascinated by how this plays out at the running back position. I mean, do we see multiple guys get the ability to start in the month of September? Are they cycling through players? Do you see relatively split amount of carries? Like, what does that rotation breakdown look like once you get into the Colorado game and beyond that? So I think the running backs are going to just be sort of a conversation throughout the entire year, because I don't look for anyone to just, take the ball and run with it, if you will. Like, I think it's going to end up being a committee thing and kind of parsed throughout the rest of the year.
Now, if they stay on the offensive side of the ball, this group, a couple of these guys coming in like, Quinn Clark, and we saw a little bit of Keelan Smith. We saw Flint. We saw Echternock. We saw Luke Lindemeyer. We saw Fedoni, a ton of praise. My favorite, Borkature. I think quietly that tight end room, are they the beneficiaries of their OC taking that room over? Is it something you think that we can look for? And not to mention, you're getting, you're getting Ingerson and Carter Nelson in a little while too. We'll see where Carter ends up, but that room quietly may be experiencing some uptick just because their OC is heavily involved in that room. Do you see it like that?
Yeah, it could be. It could also reflect a little bit. They used the tight ends a lot his last year in South Carolina. They used them in a variety of different ways. They had different types of tight ends. I know that they were maybe a little disappointed in their production last year from what they were able to do at tight end. It felt like they want to rebuild that room. That's why they went out. You got Carter Nelson. That's why you got Ian Flint. That's why you got Eric Ingerson. Two of those guys could end up as offensive linemen, just depending on how they grow and what they do. I thought Ishmael Smith-Flores looked really interesting on Saturday. He's a lot bigger than I remember the high school version of him being.
Yeah.
He looked, I don't want to say thick because that makes it seem like he's slow, but he just looked big out there, running his routes and doing what he was doing. I think that tight end room is a continual work in progress, but they want to keep adding guys like Carter Nelson and, down the line, Chase Lofton and others that can play that kind of split tight out version, that tight end version that, you not always the inline blocker. And so I'm very fascinated what that looks like here in a couple years, but I would anticipate the tight ends to be a big part of what they're going to do this year too.
I'm just trying to deductive reasoning, right? Because I hear Coach Rule talk about holding seam routes, the intermediate passing game, being able to hit in cuts, all the things that most times young quarterbacks, places they don't want to go with the ball. But if you can control that intermediate area, how freeing it is for the run game as well. You just get the sense watching their play call, their pass schematics, they want that to be a thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was a moment on Saturday where they ran a play that every video game player in the world absolutely loves, but you've never really seen Nebraska run much of. And it was a drag across the formation for Barney on one side, trips on the other that had, three different in-breaking routes that just, totally challenge a secondary as to who's going with who. And Barney was completely wide open underneath. And Dylan was able to, I think it was Dylan. I'm pretty sure it was Dylan, just completely hit, I want to say Alex Bullock on one of the in-breaking routes. It was just a really well-designed play, executed really well, and it felt like he had multiple different ways that he could have thrown to guys.
The second play after the one they called back from Nair, where he came back and hit it again, where it's just they hit the backside drag, the crossing route. It's that's really hard on the DB.
It just feels different than last year, where even just lining up and running a a very easy play was a challenge for them. Like their concepts feel different. Their ability to stress defenses through the air in different parts of the field. I just looked so different on Saturday. And I think that plays into a lot of the excitement factor and why, I mean, like I said, it's why I really think they have an opportunity to have a nice season ahead because they have a lot of pieces that are going in the right direction.
We're talking with Mike Schaefer of Husker 24/7. Schaefer, obviously Chief Borders goes into the transfer portal yesterday, the first Husker player in the spring to hop into the portal there. As you look at some of these position groups, I'm not going to ask you to name names, right? But do you think there's certain position groups on the team that are more, I don't know, vulnerable is the right word, but more likely to see some attrition based on kind of the numbers game and who may be on the outside looking in for playing time?
Yeah, I kind of always look at defensive back because it feels like they have a lot of guys there. They've moved some receivers over to defensive back. There's some young guys that were part of that transition class that haven't necessarily popped, or if they have popped, it's been maybe for the wrong reasons. And so you wonder if they're looking for a fresh start somewhere else. I think you always kind of keep an eye on the offensive line too. I mean, Nebraska has pretty good numbers there, but guys, there's only so many starters, and I feel like we can name most of them right now. And if you're one of those guys that has experience and wants to play somewhere, being an offensive lineman going into the portal, you're more likely to get the phone call than the defensive back. And so those are two of the positions rooms I'd be sort of looking at right now. We'll see what comes of it. They expressed a lot of confidence over the weekend and throughout the spring that they're not expecting any kind of mass exodus, and they don't really feel like they'll be caught off guard by those guys that do want to go in.
Those guys actually play. They just sat out. Who do you think has a bigger impact for this defense this year? Buford, Butler, or Umame Wellen?
Man, that is so Buford, you're talking about Marcus, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm so tempted to go there because he just seems like one of those flash players, right? Like he's gonna make a play.
I think we forgot half those. I think we forgot those guys were actually on the team. Sometimes we just kind of just like,
right?
They just didn't play,
right?
They actually got a chance to be kind of good.
It's tough because you pick three guys where all three of them, if Nebraska, if one of them has a big year, it's really going to pay dividends. I mentioned Buford. I would go with Jamari Butler. I think that he's potentially your best pass rushing source on the team. He could lead the team in sacks. I think he can be really disruptive. I thought he came into his own last year. I think he only played 10 or 11 games too. Had 5.5 sacks. If you can jump that number to 8. So I'm gonna go with Jamari Butler on that. But all three of those guys can be really valuable in their own ways. And it wouldn't surprise me if any of them, ascended to being one of the top players on the defense as a whole by the end of the year.
Schaefer, last thing from me here, but out of the guys that we didn't see, who does Nebraska need to be the most impactful? Not necessarily, I guess from a positional standpoint, who does Nebraska absolutely have to get something out of?
Can I cheat and use a guy who played just a little bit, even though the coach didn't want him to play?
Tommy Hill.
Yeah, I think it's Tommy Hill. Like, I think if you get the back of the season version of Tommy Hill, if he can take away one side of the ball playing as a good cover corner in the Big Ten. I mean, we saw Bly Hill go down with that injury. I think that other cornerback spot is going to feel shaky until it doesn't. So I would go Tommy Hill. I think Tommy Hill needs to be a big part of this team. I think he can be a big part of this team. And I hope that he builds off of what he did at the end of last year, because if they can have one really, really steady corner on one side of the ball, it makes life a lot easier for that secondary.
That's Mike J. Schaefer, a Husker 24/7. Schaefer, we appreciate you joining us, and have a good rest of your week.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Thanks for having me on.
That's Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7. The Tommy Hill one is definitely crucial. I do wonder, you mentioned this early, if Hartzog maybe gets moved back.
I hope not, but they may not have a choice.
Yeah, just from
you've got maybe Charles, maybe Boodle.
Because Charles they said was playing well, but got a little banged up, so we didn't see him in the spring game. That's an option, but you probably want a little bit of depth there.
Yeah, you want more than a little.
And I just don't know without. I mean, do you have more depth at safety where you can move Hartzog over to where that doesn't dramatically impact you there? Like it's going to be a little tricky back there.
It is interesting because I'm trying to figure out what happens after, Hartzog, Buford, Gifford, and Singleton, because Singleton and Buford haven't been able to stay healthy.
Yeah, been able to stay on the field, and you need.
Remember,
you're really counting on Singleton,
and you play 3.
Yeah,
so I get the corner concern.
Yeah,
but the way this defense, like if you Dowdell's long run, I mean that's secondary fitting in the run game. That's it's just.
So allowing him to bounce outside.
That's just stretch to a nub side. Like you have got to box that run. That thing can't hit the corner.
Yeah.
Right. You've got to be able, and that's just 101.
Yeah.
And it's to the boundary.
So that's something that should be pretty
that's kind of easy
to force him back in.
You can't have that happening.
Yeah. That's going to be really interesting as we watch the secondary. We brought it up last week. I don't know that Saturday answered any questions for us in the secondary, but we are going to have to see them develop some depth there, probably with some young guys.
Yeah.
In the fall. We will continue the show here next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and we're live here at the Pillar Exterior Stage. I want to remind you to go and check out War Horse Sportsbook. You can go to the casino in Lincoln or Horseman's Park in Omaha. Now that the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs getting going a little bit, maybe you want to see what you can find, maybe see if you can be a winner.
Go take a future out on the Florida Panthers, my Stanley Cup champion.
We do like some futures. You can bet on
All you got to do is just shoot on that guy. That's all you got to do.
Bet on nearly every major sporting event, whether it's Shane's hockey.
Go put a future in for us.
You want a future?
On the Panthers.
On the Panthers. Let me see what odds I can get. You know, I'm all about value, right? I like value.
I don't know. Are you?
I'm all about value. You can find out what values you can get over at Warhorse Sportsbook. If you want a full list of details and house rules, go to warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook. That's Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory.
Tampa Bay.
I'm not kidding.
Tampa Bay didn't do themselves any favor during any of the games.
Themselves?
Yes.
Where's Steven?
They didn't do any of.
Well, actually,
themselves.
They didn't even sound like that.
No one sounds like that. That's not a real person.
They didn't do any favors
Although
to
Shane
that
kind of
team.
sounds like that.
All they had to do is just shoot the puck, shoot the puck, shoot the puck.
Why
That's
are you
it.
riding with Tampa? Is it because of your brother?
Well, I've listened to a lot of
He's
Tampa
a big
games.
Stammers guy. Didn't you hear him earlier?
Cooch.
Cooch and Stammers. I don't know, Shane.
I mean, but it doesn't matter.
There's this part of me that wants to see the Rangers in Colorado just so I can see a lot of 7-6.
Yeah. Let's get the shootouts going.
Dude, those are
not an actual shootout, like a theoretical shootout.
Teams can get you in
They
a
will
hurry.
stretch the floor. Yeah. They will
I
stretch
just,
the
I
ice
just
out.
don't know if you're going to play Colorado with open ice and not really possess the puck.
Yeah.
I just don't know if you can beat them at their own game.
Open ice, that's different from open doors.
Well, you just can't. I need to fill out that paperwork. You just can't allow them to skate through the neutral zone like that.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're just so fast. Now, the Rangers can actually match it, though. I mean,
I feel like I could get behind that.
You like open. I don't know. I
think for a novice hockey fan, that's easier. It's like Big 12 football.
You would have enjoyed Edmonton, LA the other night, 1-0. I mean, every shot on goal, the crowd.
Yeah, there's
just
tension.
goes-
There's a tension there.
Yeah,
that I appreciate. Didn't love, that Tampa Florida game got away pretty quick when they went empty net.
Hey, Florida had 22 shots on goal in the second period. Did you see that? You're talking about you want Tampa to get the puck on net? How about possessing the puck, Shane?
Well, maybe a little bit of defense there too. I mean, that probably would have helped that team out.
I mean, that thing was 2-1 with like a minute to go in the second period. And then hockey happened.
Yeah, he got away from it.
We
a little
felt
bit.
like Tampa was living on borrowed time.
Well, so because they went 3-1 and then they pulled the goalie, and then all of a sudden it's
With
just,
like 6 and some change,
Yeah,
5 minutes.
they went early. It's possible that was not the strategy they should have gone with.
The people that like the over-under people were like, depending on what side of the fence you're on, you're like, 6 minutes, no goalie. And if you had the under, you were thinking, oh, I'm sitting pretty good, man. Just 2-1 at the end. It's and all of a sudden, oh, heck broke
Well,
loose.
what do they call that? That's just given a little bit too late. I mean, because they did that all series long. I mean,
Felt
there
like
was
too much too early.
There was
Shane, did you see the delayed penalty where Florida possessed the puck for like over a minute? Like when they call a penalty on you, the minute the other team touches the puck, like they blow the whistle.
I know that from video games.
Florida had the puck for well over a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, you were worried about getting a line change. They had it for so long. I have never seen a team have the puck that long on a delayed penalty.
Because usually it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, relatively.
Right? It's like,
did they get caught on a long line change?
No, they couldn't. They couldn't dig the puck out of the boards.
That's
I was like, this. They're just asking for it. I'm like, if they score on this, now that inevitably they didn't, but
right.
We saw a bad challenge. Do you like? We talked about rules we'd like to take from the UFL.
That's a bad rule.
You don't like that because if you miss a challenge, you automatically go on the power play.
Yeah, that's just kind of
or penalty kill.
Yeah, I don't.
That seems kind of
aggressive.
Harsh, right?
Like that seems overly punitive. Like I would maybe give like one freebie, and then if you want to challenge something else, then you're risking a power play for the other way.
I just would be very leery of anything in the crease. Right? Whether they went in there on their own volition, whether you're tangled up.
Yeah, that seems aggressive. It seems overly punitive.
Yeah, it's like
for a first go.
And maybe Tampa was desperate. Like
I mean,
maybe they had to challenge it.
They seemed desperate.
Yeah, this is the end of a. I shouldn't say this. I said this about Boston 2 years ago, and they're like, "Yeah, we didn't get the memo." But, well, they started their whole team over. Like, you kept your one good line intact, and
right.
But that's just they're like the Cardinals. It's a well-run franchise.
Good franchise. You can kind of give them the benefit that, although the franchises or the Cardinals have been down a couple years now, too.
Just don't know how Tampa has been dodging how cash strapped they are. Like they don't have any flexibility. I've said that for a couple of years.
But that's going to be where it gets tough,
that,
right?
Yes.
Because usually these cash strapped franchises, regardless of sport, they're able to stay competitive by not paying.
That roster is going to get a makeover.
Well, they don't pay for guys for past performance, right? Like you can't pay a Stamkos going into later stages of his career because he's going to require a premium most likely, and you just aren't going to get value for that. Those franchises all operate like me. I like value on my Warhorse bets. They all operate on value.
Go put that future in.
I'll think about it.
Shane,
I got stuff to do. I don't know what. I just made that up.
Well, we got donations coming in.
That's true. I got to be here. We got some donations going in. Luckily, the rain let up for a minute at least.
Annie Lennox.
Walking on Broken Glass?
No, I think it's Vows.
Shadows of the Night?
But is it Glass or Vows?
We're running with... No, Walking on Broken Glass. That's definitely the song.
I think it's Vows.
It's not.
Is that tagged with Eye in the Sky?
God, you say it so matter of fact. You're going to get me off of it, but I think I'm right.
The Annie Lennox song, it's Walking on Broken Glass.
All right.
I am positive about this.
Okay. You might be right.
Go put a future on it.
There's also, only if I get good value, Shano. There's also Shadows of the Night, which is a good one. I'm a big fan of that one. Annie Lennox has some bangers, low key.
Yeah, I'm not.
People don't think about it. That might be Pat Benatar. Shadows of the Night might be Pat Benatar.
Probably not a lot of people thinking about that.
Is this not? Wait, did I do that right? Oh, it is Broken Glass. Hey, Shane.
Yeah, Shadows of the Night's Pat Benatar. That's my bad.
Who goes home tonight? Toronto or the Islanders or both?
Like Take Me Home Tonight?
It's a
different 80s song.
You don't think Colorado will close it up?
That's expected, and I guess Carolina is too. They were the favorite in their conference.
Colorado needs to get one out of the next two.
Not Dallas.
They could get it. Dallas is 2-2.
Did you see Marner getting hammered?
Yeah.
On set.
Yeah.
The other night.
Yeah.
You don't like hockey's just different. they will. I mean, they talk reckless about their sport. Like everybody's like Barkley.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be honest, I haven't gotten into the studio shows yet. I'm still working on,
Yeah, they're killing more. I think the Leafs are in that franchise and I'm telling you, that city,
yeah,
they sleep and eat that bad boy.
Yeah,
I mean, they sleep.
Well,
is this
if
weird?
If you're in the East, you don't want to face. You would rather face Boston than you would Toronto in the next round. If you're in the East, I'm just saying that.
And you think Boston's doing what they do because they just have owned Toronto,
right?
Yeah.
I constantly kind of feel bad for the Canadian hockey teams. Like, I want them to be better because I know it definitely means more to them than it does to pretty much anyone else. I know, like, Blackhawks fans are super diehard. And
yeah, Vers is probably pissed right
Red
now.
Wings. Like, I know, you pick any of the original six or like some of the long-standing franchises, I'm not taking that away from them. But, and I know Phoenix is moving to Salt Lake or whatever now. But I always feel bad when, like, these
Utah must be sitting on some money.
Oh, yeah. That's the new
They're like
that's the new like Montana, Wyoming.
Yeah, that's kind of the
is
desirable
Utah.
destination.
Yeah, Utah's the new it's like the new Colorado. All the money was going to Colorado, Wyoming, Montana for a while. It's Utah's the new one. But it's like St. George. Everybody's moving to St. George. But I just feel bad when like these Florida teams, whether it's Tampa, whether it's Florida, are dominating this thing that the Canadians care way more about than we do.
Yeah, down there in the Sunshine State.
Like it's Florida. They don't
even have ice in their refrigerators, let
like,
alone
they don't
on
care.
their rinks.
They don't care, man.
Oh, that they're good though.
Like they are good, but I know some people care down there, but like throw Canada a bone every once in a while. That's all I'm asking.
I was a huge
just throw them a bone.
I remember when they lost guys like Matt Sundin and Lindros. Like that city will stop.
Oh yeah,
functioning.
Absolutely.
You're talking about 3 million in their fields.
100%. We will wrap. That's a whole hockey segment, guys.
That was on accident too.
That's your fault, Ravi. You went right to that.
We will wrap up the show coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Clear.
Yeah. On Tuesday.
We will be back. We will be back.
Donations. No. Why?
We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up the show here on a Tuesday on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, on the Pillar Exterior Stage. That's CB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. Lots of spring football again today. I would imagine we're going to stay heavy on that for a little while now, but I did want to get into we've had quite a bit of transfer movement in the college basketball world locally, whether it be with, the Frankie Fiddlers, Chucky Hepburns of the world moving on to different places, or with, we talked Nebraska bringing some guys in a week or two ago, but Creighton landed a couple transfers this past week as well that we hadn't really got a chance to talk about. One of them, Jemiah Neal from Arizona State, 6'6" wing. The other, Pop Isaacs, a guard from Texas Tech, who I'm not a huge fan of. But you were trying to tell me his game's okay.
I am. And plus, I think you just have to trust Coach Mack in kind of the culture fit for Isaacs. They do as good a job of doing their homework as anybody that I've been around, and they have a high hit rate on the transfer market. Now, Neil was who I was joking about last week about, who we were talking. We weren't joking. We actually talked about him coming to Creighton, and I said, listen, if there's a place you want to come and you're a good finisher around the rim but you shoot 29% from three and you're looking for some athleticism, that's a guy you take a chance on. And by the way, I'm gonna let you say what you want to say about Pop Isaacs. What was I watching last night where they did a cut in of Larry Johnson? Did somebody tweet out pictures of Larry Johnson on the basketball court, him dunking on somebody?
Yeah, yesterday somebody.
Who was that?
I don't know who quote tweeted it, but I saw that where he posterized somebody.
Yeah.
Larry Johnson's a freak.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, our guy Sauter's been on him for a while, but
Sauter heard that from somebody in Creighton's program. We've been on that for a while.
I've said this several times. I think he might be the most athletic player Creighton's ever had. Like recruit, just pure athleticism. I don't know what that translates to. I think he's a good basketball player too, but he might be the most athletic player Creighton's ever recruited. Certainly in the Greg McDermott era, probably going back through the Altman era. I know some people are going to yell at me about Rodney Buford, but whatever. That's
my old neighbor.
Big Rodney Buford guy.
He was good.
That's a great question.
He was so good to
Lula.
me. We played on the same softball team.
Yeah.
Yeah, my man wore white cleats.
Ooh, white cleats are clean.
Man,
I mean, they don't stay clean, but they look clean.
In 06, 07, nobody was wearing them.
Man, I like white cleats.
His pants were too short. He could hit it a ton.
So let me ask you this question, because this is more philosophical than just a Pop Isaacs issue, right? I mean, I'm looking at his profile, his stats. I've been watching some highlights. obviously there's some stuff there, right? I get that. I'm not saying that he's.
You're talking about off the court.
No, not just that,
Or
honestly. Both.
Okay,
I mean, so because there was off the court issues. If you want to know what, like, Google him, look him up. There was an issue in the Bahamas when they were there, and then he was sued, and everything ended up getting dropped. You still question some judgment around the situation, but that's one part of it. But the other part is, at what point do we have to say, okay, yeah, these guys have done a really good job of due diligence in the past. They've had a really high hit rate on transfers in the past. You tend to trust their judgment, but at what point do you have to say, hey, they're also people that want to win at a super high level? Is it crazy to think, after maybe missing on a Mahaney, who ends up at UConn, and missing on some of their other targets, a Chucky, perhaps?
Who just went to Michigan?
Gale.
Gale Jr., Roddy Gale Jr.
So you're missing on some of the guys you really wanted. Is there a point where I have to say, hey, maybe they felt like they had to compromise a little bit because they were desperate?
I don't know. It just doesn't.
Is that a fair question?
Yeah. I just my struggle with that is I just can't see. I just can't see the program being like that.
I would hope not,
because they're not really there yet. Especially, and we'll see what happens with Kalkbrenner. But if you have some pieces back in place, you may be young in some spots, but I don't know if you. I don't know.
They're pretty thin at guard, though. I mean, they really were.
Oh, I know.
Because it was,
believe me,
Ashworth and then Ty Davis coming in, true freshman.
Yeah.
You've got Larry Johnson, probably, if you don't get Isaacs.
And it seems like Ashworth was willing to take not a back seat, but if they got a
like a complimentary role,
point guard, like he'd
road with
they
it.
want to win.
So I just, if they were going to be desperate at any spot, I think it would have been that guard spot. So that's, on the surface, to me, looks like a weird fit, both culture-wise and playing style-wise. I mean, the guy, I'm not making these numbers up. He's a 35% career shooter from the field. Now, he was better as a freshman, but as his volume went up as a sophomore, it fell off a cliff. Yeah. Now, I know he was playing banged up and whatever, but it's hard to stare at those numbers and feel good about it. I don't know. I don't know if this is the guy they wanted.
I do know one thing.
What's that?
If you're going to want to rehab your offensive efficiency numbers,
Creighton's a good place to go.
This is the place to go. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, like the Jemiah Neal one makes a lot of sense to me, right? Because, and Jacob Padilla, our guy, brought this up, and this is a really good point. Even though his numbers, he was 27% from the field last year, and I think for his career, his spot-up shooting numbers are actually really good. So if you can convince him to stop taking...
He was a 29% three-point shooter last year, right?
27.5 is what...
Is that right?
Is what the stats are telling me. He was 29 2 years ago.
Okay.
But Jacob looked into the synergy data and all that, got deep into the weeds on it. His spot-up shooting numbers, actually really good. He just takes way too many off the dribble. So that's one where I go, okay, if you can get him to stop shooting off the dribble and understand, hey, this is where you're good, this is where you want to get your shots, that makes sense to me, right? Even though the numbers on the surface look a little concerning. The Pop Isaacs one is where I struggle. Yeah. And and I'm not going to lie to you, the off-the-court stuff doesn't help.
Oh, Judgy McJudge.
I mean, I don't love it.
I think they're going to be okay.
I mean, maybe.
Because you have options.
You do have options, but what?
If you don't love it, leave it.
What do we know about options? Options aren't always answers.
Hey, listen, what my man say?
If you don't love it, leave it.
Well, I can't.
USA, #1.
I can't ask questions. That's not reasonable.
Yeah, but I wouldn't. Right now you're elevating about 145 over 130, and it's made up. I would just simmer down a little. You can pose the question, but you also have the luxury to not think worst case scenario, right? Because I think we have a tendency to do that. We work our
sometimes,
way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean you have to be super naive, but it doesn't have to be the bad ending either.
It doesn't have to be, but when you've got legitimate
if you like
question marks.
if you like listen to yourself talk, you're trying to talk yourself off of the negative vantage point. And I'm simply saying you can look at it in a positive light to say he's in a place and in a locker room and in a culture where that hasn't been a thing. And you can also, Ravi, L2, think to yourself, you know what? I just want to be developed offensively. I want to get better with my offensive game.
I get that, and that's fine. I
don't have to rack my brains anymore. You can have some concerns. I get it.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the concerns are right there on the page.
Yeah, well,
I got 2 full years at 35% shooting. That's not ideal.
What's that?
It's not what I would love to see.
Hey, while I've got you, how's that Mavericks offense working out for you?
We will embrace it.
It's less pretty than it was during the regular season.
You were ready to be all back on board again, weren't you?
I mean, I was enjoying Luka playing a style that I thought better fit his skill set. I was openly disappointed that he chose to play like James Harden for several years. I didn't love that.
Since we're not going to preview Creighton, Nebraska baseball tonight, can I ask you one more NBA question?
Yeah.
Is Tyronn Lue a good coach in your opinion?
Good coach? I gotta say,
why does he not get the benefit of the doubt? I've heard this for 6-7 years. He's certainly not Doc Rivers.
No, he's better than Doc.
Right?
I think Doc
as
is
a guy that's had a few jobs in the last couple of years,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh yeah, he just keeps resurfacing.
So I think the issue that most people and myself included,
he's getting this Clippers team to maximize.
Yes,
and he's controlled Harden,
which is maybe the best coaching job anyone's done this year.
Yeah, you seen Antonio Brown's Twitter lately,
and not just
Team Mike Tomlin,
not just controlling Harden, but taking a guy who's been historically bad in the playoffs.
How about just managing Kawhi in whatever it is he is doing?
I mean, almost the last couple games, they seem like they're better off without him.
So in the short term, I could see
long
that.
term,
don't be that
long
guy.
term, you can't win big without him.
If I had to
But
hear
in
that
this
one more time,
series-
if I had to hear that one more time on social media the other
No.
night, I was like, just knock it off. you
Long
guys.
term, you can't. Long term, you can't win without Kawhi. But in this series, you might be better off not sending out an injured Kawhi, right? Like, it's not saying you're better off without Kawhi. Isn't like, hey, I get 100% Kawhi, I'm leaving him on the bench. It's, hey, if he's banged up, maybe he's detracting more than he's bringing to the table, playing at 60, 70%. We do have Creighton, Nebraska tonight. Hopefully, we're crossing our fingers that the weather cooperates and we get this thing in. Make sure you get out to the Chuck if you want to watch that one. That's a 6 p.m. first pitch, so don't think it's a 7.
Yeah, pay attention to the weather.
Yeah, keep your head on a swivel. Keep safe out there. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back tomorrow.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.